The chair recognizes herself for 5 minutes for an opening statement. Mr. Chu, you are here because the American people need the truth about the threat TikTok poses to our national and personal security. TikTok collects nearly every data point imaginable, from people's location to what they type and copy, who they talk to, biometric data, and more. Even if they've never been on TikTok, your trackers are embedded in sites across the web. TikTok surveils us all. And the Chinese Communist Party is able to use this as a tool to manipulate America as a whole. We do not trust TikTok will ever embrace American values, values for freedom, human rights, and innovation. TikTok has repeatedly chosen the path for more control, more surveillance, and more manipulation. Your platform should be banned. I expect today you'll say anything to avoid this outcome, like you are 100% responsible for what TikTok does, that you suddenly endorse a national data privacy standard, that Project Texas is more than a marketing scheme, that TikTok doesn't harm our innocent children, or that your ties to the Chinese Communist Party through ByteDance is just a myth. We aren't buying it. In fact, when you celebrate the 150 million American users on TikTok, it emphasizes the urgency for Congress to act. That is 150 million Americans that CCP can collect sensitive information on and control what we ultimately see, hear, and believe. TikTok has repeatedly been caught in the lie that it does not answer to the CCP through ByteDance. Today, the CCP's laws require Chinese companies like ByteDance to spy on their behalf. That means any Chinese company must grant the CCP access and manipulation capabilities as a design feature. Right now, ByteDance is under investigation by the DOJ for surveilling American journalists, both digital activity and physical movements through TikTok. We also know that many of your employees still report directly to Beijing. Internal recordings reveal there is a backdoor for China to access user data across the platform. Your employees said, quote, "Everything is seen in China." A gateway to spy is not the only way TikTok and ByteDance can do the bidding of the CCP. TikTok has helped erase events and people China wants the world to forget. It's even censored an American teenager who exposed CCP's genocide and torture of Uyghur Muslims. The facts show that ByteDance is beholden to the CCP, and ByteDance and TikTok are one and the same. TikTok also targets our children. The For You algorithm is a tool for TikTok to own their attention and prey on their innocence. Within minutes of creating an account, your algorithm can promote suicide, self-harm, and eating disorders to children. It encourages challenges for them to put their lives in danger and allows adults to prey on our beautiful, beloved daughters. It's also a portal for drug dealers to sell illicit fentanyl that China has banned, yet is helping Mexican cartels produce, send across our border, and poison our children. In China, the CCP proactively prohibits this type of TikTok content that promotes death and despair to kids. From the data it collects to the content it controls, TikTok is a grave threat of foreign influence in American life. It's been said it's like allowing the Soviet Union the power to produce Saturday morning cartoons during the Cold War, but much more powerful and much more dangerous. Banning your platform will address the immediate threats. Make no mistake, this committee is also looking to the future. America needs to be prepared to stop the next technological tool or weapon China will use for its own strategic gain. We must prevent any app, website, and platform like TikTok from ever spying on Americans again. And we must provide the strongest protections possible for our children. That is why this committee is leading on a national privacy and data security standard. It restricts sensitive American data from reaching our adversaries to begin with. And what big tech and data brokers collect, process, store, and sell. It makes it illegal for any platform to track and target children under 17. Mr. Chu, the committee has requested that TikTok appear before us for a long time. For those we serve, we're glad the day has finally come. Today, the world is watching. ByteDance is watching. The Chinese Communist Party is watching. But the answers you owe are to the American people, a free people who cherish their God-given, unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all. They deserve the truth. Complete honesty is the standard and the law you are being held to before this committee, as we seek to get answers and a full understanding of what happens at TikTok under your watch. Thank you. Chair now recognizes the ranking member, Mr. Pallone, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me say that I agree with much of what you just said, and I certainly appreciate your enthusiasm and your commenting on being a mother and concerned about children. And I am glad that we are having this hearing today. Big tech has transformed the information superhighway into a super spreader of harmful content, invasive surveillance practices, and addictive and damaging design features. Data is big tech's most valuable commodity, and by collecting far more user data than they need, big tech platforms can use, share, and sell information to generate billions of dollars in revenue. Today, the American people are powerless to stop this invasion of their privacy, and we can't wait any longer to pass comprehensive national privacy legislation that puts people back in control of their data. We must hold big tech accountable for its actions, and transparency is critical to that accountability. In the past several Congresses, this committee has heard from senior executives of other social media platforms about troubling and repeated instances where they put profits over people. Now, today we intend to bring more transparency to TikTok, which is controlled by its Beijing communist-based parent company, ByteDance. And while TikTok videos provide a new fun way for people to express their creativity and enjoy the videos of others, the platform also threatens the health, privacy, and security of the American people. And I'm not convinced that the benefits outweigh the risks that it poses to Americans in its present form. More than 130 million people in the United States use TikTok every month, including 2/3 of American teenagers. TikTok collects and compiles vast troves of valuable personal information to create an addictive algorithm that is able to predict with uncanny accuracy which videos will keep users scrolling, even if the content is harmful, inaccurate, or feeds destructive behavior or extremist beliefs. Now, the combination of TikTok's Beijing communist-based China ownership and its popularity exacerbates its danger to our country and to our privacy. The Chinese Communist government can compel companies based in Beijing, like TikTok, to share data with the Communist government through existing Beijing law or coercion. National security experts are sounding the alarm, warning that the Chinese Communist government could require TikTok to compromise device security, maliciously access American user data, promote pro-communist propaganda, and undermine American interests. Disinformation campaigns could be launched by the Chinese Communist government through TikTok, which has already become rife with misinformation and disinformation, illegal activities, and hate speech. A recent report found that 20% of TikTok search results on prominent news topics contain misinformation. Social media's profitability depends on growth and engagement. More eyes on their content for longer time leads to more advertising dollars and revenue generation. Addictive algorithms are fine-tuned to optimize growth and engagement without necessarily taking into account potential harms to users. Children and teens are particularly vulnerable. Frequent online use of interactive media on digital devices is associated with increased levels of depression among middle and high school students. Research has found that TikTok's addictive algorithms recommend videos to teens that create and exacerbate feelings of emotional distress, including videos promoting suicide, self-harm, and eating disorders. Public outrage and hollow apologies alone are not going to rein in big tech. Congress has to enact laws protecting the American public from such online harms. And we simply cannot wait any longer to pass the comprehensive privacy legislation that I authored with then-ranking member, now Chair Rogers, last Congress, that overwhelmingly advanced out of the committee. It ensures that companies, wherever they live, it ensures, I should say, that consumers, wherever they live in this country, will have meaningful control over their personal information. Our legislation establishes baseline data minimization requirements, ensuring that companies only collect, process, and transfer data necessary to provide a service. And it provides heightened privacy protections for children and teenagers. So I think it's time to make this legislation the law of the land. And we also have to examine the reforms needed to Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. The liability shield for social media platforms has for too long been abused and led to a lack of accountability for social media platforms. So I hope we can find a bipartisan path forward on that issue too, and I think you're having a hearing next week on it, so we can stop the very real harms to our country and democracy under the current law. I'd look forward to the discussion today as we continue to bring accountability to big tech. And let me say to Mr. Chu, I know this is about TikTok, but I am focusing all my attention not only on TikTok, but on these concerns, wide concerns about social media and the protection of privacy. And with that, I yield back. Thank you again, Madam Chair, for having this very important hearing.
Our witness today is Mr. Shou Chu, Chief Executive Officer of TikTok. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chair Rogers, Ranking Member Pallone, members of the committee, thank you for your time. I am Shou Chu, and I'm from Singapore. That's where I was born, as were my parents. And after serving in Singapore's military, I moved to the UK to attend college, and then here to the US to attend business school. I actually met my wife here. By the way, she was just born a few miles away from here in Virginia. 2 years ago, I became the CEO of TikTok. Today, we have more than 1 billion monthly active users around the world, including over 150 million in the United States. Our app is a place where people can be creative and curious, and where close to 5 million American businesses, mostly small businesses, go to find new customers and to fuel their growth. Now, as TikTok has grown, we've tried to learn the lessons of companies that have come before us, especially when it comes to the safety of teenagers. While the vast majority of people on TikTok are over 18, one of our fastest growing demographics are people over 35. We spent a lot of time adopting measures to protect teenagers. Many of those measures are firsts for the social media industry. We forbid direct messaging for people under 16, and we have a 16-minute watch time by default for those under 18. We have a suite of family pairing tools so that parents can participate in their teens' experience and make the choices that are right for their family. We want TikTok to be a place where teenagers can come to learn, which is why we recently launched a feed that exclusively features educational videos about STEM. STEM videos already have over 116 billion views on TikTok. And I think TikTok is inspiring a new generation to discover a passion for math and science. Now, I would also like to talk about national security concerns that you have raised, that we take very, very seriously. Let me start by addressing a few misconceptions about ByteDance, of which we are a subsidiary. ByteDance is not owned or controlled by the Chinese government. It's a private company. 60% of the company is owned by global institutional investors. 20% is owned by the founder, and 20% owned by employees around the world. ByteDance has 5 board members. 3 of them are American. Now, TikTok itself is not available in mainland China. We're headquartered in Los Angeles and in Singapore, and we have 7,000 employees in the US today. Still, we have heard important concerns about the potential for unwanted foreign access to US data and potential manipulation of the TikTok US ecosystem. Our approach has never been to dismiss or trivialize any of these concerns. We have addressed them with real action. Now, that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years, building what amounts to a firewall that seals off protected US user data from unauthorized foreign access. The bottom line is this: American data stored on American soil by an American company, overseen by American personnel. We call this initiative Project Texas. That's where Oracle is headquartered. Today, US TikTok data is stored by default in Oracle servers. Only vetted personnel operating in a new company called TikTok US Data Security can control access to this data. Now, additionally, we have plans for this company to report to an independent American board with strong security credentials. Now, there's still some work to do. We have legacy US data sitting in our servers in Virginia and in Singapore. We're deleting those, and we expect that to be complete this year. When that is done, all protected US data will be under the protection of US law and under the control of the US-led security team. This eliminates the concern that some of you have shared with me that TikTok user data can be subject to Chinese law. This goes further, by the way, than what any other company in our industry have done. We will also provide unprecedented transparency and security for the source code for the TikTok app and recommendation engine. Third-party validators like Oracle and others will review and validate our source code and algorithms. This will help ensure the integrity of the code that powers what Americans see on our app. We will further provide access to researchers, which helps them study and monitor our content ecosystem. Now, we believe we are the only company that offers this level of transparency. Now, trust is about actions we take. We have to earn that trust with decisions we make for our company and our products. The potential security, privacy, content manipulation concerns raised about TikTok are really not unique to us. The same issues apply to other companies. We believe what's needed are clear, transparent rules that apply broadly to all tech companies. Ownership is not at the core of addressing these concerns. Now, as I conclude, there are more than 150 million Americans who love our platform, and we know we have a responsibility to protect them, which is why I'm making the following commitments to you and to all our users. Number one, we will keep safety, particularly for teenagers, as a top priority for us. Number two, we will firewall protected US data from unwanted foreign access. Number three, TikTok will remain a place for free expression and will not be manipulated by any government. And fourth, we will be transparent and we will give access to third-party independent monitors to remain accountable for our commitments. I'll be grateful for any feedback that you have, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
As you know, the testimony that you're about to give is subject to Title 18, Section 1001 of the United States Code. As you state in your testimony, ByteDance is TikTok's parent company. Is it accurate to say that you are in regular communication with the CEO of ByteDance, Leon Robo?
Chair Rogers, yes, I am in
Thank you.
communication with him.
Okay. Kelly Zhang is the CEO of ByteDance China, overseeing Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok. Are you in regular communication with Kelly?
I'm not in regular communication with her.
The ByteDance editor-in-chief is Zhong Puping, correct?
I believe so.
And Wu Shugang is Beijing ByteDance technology board member and also an official of the Cyberspace Administration in China. Is this correct?
I believe so. They are not in direct.
Thank you. All of these individuals work or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party, are at the highest levels of leadership at ByteDance, a company where you previously served as the chief financial officer and where you regularly communicate with their CEO. TikTok has told us that you weren't sharing data with the CCP, but leaked audio from within TikTok has proven otherwise. TikTok told us that you weren't tracking the geolocation of American citizens. You were. TikTok told us you weren't spying on journalists. You were. In your testimony, you state that ByteDance is not beholden to the CCP. Again, each of the individuals I listed are affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party, including Zhong Puping, who is reported to be the Communist Party secretary of ByteDance, and who has called for the party committee to, quote, take the lead across all party lines to ensure the algorithm is enforced by, quote, correct political direction. Just this morning, the Wall Street Journal reported that the CCP is opposed to a forced sale of TikTok by ByteDance, quoting a CCP spokesman as saying the Chinese government would make a decision regarding any sale of TikTok. So the CCP believes they have the final say over your company. I have zero confidence in your assertion that ByteDance and TikTok are not beholden to the CCP. Next question. Heating content is a way of promoting and moderating content. In your current or previous positions within Chinese companies, have employees engaged in heating content for users outside of China? Very quickly, yes or no?
Our heating process is approved by our local teams in the various countries.
The answer is yes, thank you. Have any moderation tools been used to remove content on TikTok associated with the Uyghur genocide? Yes or no?
We do not remove that kind of content. TikTok is a place of freedom of expression. And Chair Rogers, like I said, if you use our app, you can go on it and you will see a lot of users around the world expressing content on that topic and many others.
Thank you. What about the massacre in Tiananmen Square? Yes or no?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
The massacre in Tiananmen Square.
That kind of content is available on our platform. You can go and search it.
I will remind you that making false or misleading statements to Congress is a federal crime.
I understand. Again, if you go on our platform, you will find that
question.
content.
Okay, thank you. Reclaiming my time, can you say with 100% certainty that ByteDance or the CCP cannot use your company or its divisions to heat content to promote pro-CCP messages for an act of aggression against Taiwan?
We do not promote or remove content at the request of the Chinese government.
The question is,
we will replace.
The question is, are you 100% certain that they cannot use your company to promote such messages?
It is our commitment to this committee and all our users that we will keep this free from any manipulation by any government.
If you can't say 100% certain, I take that as a no. As I previously referenced, TikTok spied on American journalists. Can you say with 100% certainty that neither ByteDance nor TikTok employees can target other Americans with similar surveillance techniques?
Chair Rogers, I first of all disagree with the characterization that is spying. It was an internal investigation.
Yes or no? Can you do surveillance of other Americans?
We will protect the US user data and fire it all from all unwanted foreign access. It's a commitment that we've given to the committee.
So I guess my question is, I wanted to hear you say with 100% certainty that neither ByteDance nor TikTok employees can target other Americans with similar surveillance techniques as you did with the journalists.
Again, I don't disagree with the characterization is surveillance, and we have given our commitments, Chair Rogers. The 4 commitments, I think it's our commitment that we will not be influenced by any government on these issues.
DOJ is investigating this surveillance right now. To the American people watching today, hear this: TikTok is a weapon by the Chinese Communist Party to spy on you, manipulate what you see, and exploit for future generations. A ban is only a short-term way to address TikTok, and a data privacy bill is the only way to stop TikTok from ever happening again in the United States. I yield back. I now yield to the ranking member for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me just start out by saying, Mr. Chu, that I don't find what you suggested with Project Texas and this firewall that's being suggested to whoever will be acceptable to me. In other words, you know, I still believe that the Beijing Communist government will still control and have the ability to influence what you do. And so this idea, this Project Texas, is simply not acceptable. According to a recent report, TikTok is on target to make between $15 and $18 billion in revenue this year. Is that an accurate forecast?
Congressman, as a private company, we are not sharing our numbers
what you
publicly.
would say. How much money will TikTok make by delivering personalized advertisements just to your users in the United States? Will you give me that information?
Again, Congressman, respectfully, as a private company,
that's
we're
what
not
you would
disclosing
say.
that.
Look, the impression you're giving, and I know, you know, I can understand why you're trying to give that impression, is that, you know, that you're just performing some kind of public service here, right? I mean, this is a benign company that's just performing a public service. Maybe that's not what you're saying, but I don't buy it, right? My concern here is primarily about the privacy issue, the fact that TikTok is making all kinds of money by gathering private information about Americans that they don't need for their business purposes, and then they sell it. And I mentioned this legislation that the chair and I have that would minimize data collection and make it much more difficult for TikTok and other companies to do that. So what if you want to make some commitments today, why don't I'll ask you to make some commitments with regard to this legislation. And you're going to tell me, well, the bill isn't passed and so therefore I don't have to do it. But you say you're benign, you want to do good things for the public. So let me ask you, why not, what about a commitment that says that you won't sell the data that you collect? Would you commit to that, not selling the data you collect?
Congressman, I believe we don't sell data to any data brokers.
You don't sell to anyone.
We don't sell data to data brokers.
I didn't ask you data brokers. You sell it to anyone. In other words, under our bill, you can only use the data for your own purposes, not to sell it to anyone. Would you commit to not selling your data to anyone?
Congressman, I actually am in support of some rules.
I didn't ask
privacy.
you whether rules. I asked you whether the company TikTok would commit to not selling its data to anyone and just using it for its own purposes internally.
I can get back to you on the details
Okay,
of that.
get back to me. All right. Another thing that's in our bill says that we would prohibit targeting marketing to people under the age of 17. Would you be willing to agree to prohibit targeted marketing to people, Americans under the age of 17?
Congressman, we have actually stricter rules for advertisers in terms of what they can show to our
So
users
do you
under the age of 18.
would you be willing to prohibit targeted marketing to those under 17? That's what's in our bill.
I understand that there's some talk and some legislation around the country.
Well,
for
again,
studying this.
I wanted you to make that commitment without the legislation. Since you say you're a good company, you want to do good things, why not?
It's something we can look into and get back to you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, we also have in our bill a requirement of heightened protection for sensitive data, particularly location and health data. Would you commit to not gathering or dealing with location or health data unless you get affirmative consent from the consumer? In other words, under our bill, those are categorized as sensitive, and unless the person specifically says, I want you to collect that data, you wouldn't be able to, location and health data. Would you commit to that?
Congressman, in principle, I support that, which, by the way, we do not collect precise GPS data at this point, and I do not believe we collect any health data.
All right, so would you be willing to make that commitment that from now on, you won't collect location and health data without, you're saying at all? Is that
Congressman,
a commitment?
this is data that's frequently collected by many other companies in our
I
industry.
know other companies do it. I don't think they should without affirmative consent. You said you want to be a good actor. So why not make that commitment to me today?
We're committed to be very transparent with our users about what we collect. I don't believe what we collect is more than most
You see,
players
my
in the
problem
industry.
here is you're trying to give the impression that you're going to move away from Beijing and the Communist Party. You're trying to give the impression that you're a good actor. But the commitments that we would seek to achieve those goals are not being made today. They're just not being made. You're going to continue to gather data. You're going to continue to sell data. You're going to continue to do all these things and continue to be under the aegis of the Communist Party through your organization that owns you. So, in any case, thank you, Madam Chair.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Burgess, for 5 minutes.
I thank the chair. Thank you, Mr. Chu, for joining us today. I think we've heard you say multiple times that TikTok is not a Chinese company, that ByteDance is not a Chinese company. But according to an article in today's Wall Street Journal, quoting here, China's Commerce Ministry said Thursday that a sale or divestiture of TikTok will involve exporting technology that has to be approved by the Chinese government. Continuing to quote, the reported efforts by the Biden administration would severely undermine global investors' confidence in the U.S., said Xu Tuting, a ministry spokeswoman. Continuing to quote, if that is true, China will firmly oppose it, she said, referring to the forced sale. So despite your assertions to the contrary, China certainly thinks it is in control of TikTok and its software. Is that not correct?
Congressman, TikTok is not available in mainland China. And today we're headquartered in Los Angeles and Singapore. But I'm not saying that the founders of ByteDance are not Chinese, nor am I saying that we don't make use of Chinese employees' just like many other companies around the world. We do, use their expertise on some engineering projects.
But according to
Now,
their ministry spokeswoman, it would be a divestiture of exporting technology from China. So again, China thinks they own it, even though you do not. Madam Chair, I'd just like to ask unanimous consent to put today's Wall Street Journal
Without
article
objection, so ordered.
into the record. And Mr. Chu, I wouldn't ask you to discuss any privileged attorney-client materials, but did anyone aside from your lawyers assist you in preparation for today's hearing?
I prepared for this hearing with my team here in DC.
Did anyone at ByteDance directly provide input, help, or instruction for your testimony today?
Congressman, this is a very high-profile hearing. My phone is full of well wishes. But I prepared for this hearing with my team here in DC.
Are you willing to share who helped prepare you for this hearing with the committee? And you can do that
I
in
can
writing.
follow up with you if
Okay.
you like.
Can you guarantee that no one at ByteDance had a role in preparing you for today's hearing?
Like I said, Congressman, this is a high-profile hearing. A lot of people around the world were sending me wishes and unsolicited advice, but I prepared for this hearing with my team here in DC.
Are the attorneys representing TikTok also representing ByteDance?
Yes, I believe so.
What percentage of TikTok revenue does ByteDance retain? Just give me a ballpark estimate if you don't precisely know.
Congressman, like I said, as a private company, we are not prepared to disclose our financials in public today.
But can we ask you to get back to us with a ballpark? We're not asking for the precise figures, but so the committee can have some understanding of the percentage of TikTok revenue that ByteDance retains.
I understand the question. Respectfully, as a private company, we are not disclosing our financials today.
Prior to today's hearing, did anyone affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party discuss this hearing with you, or anyone else on TikTok senior management?
Congressman, since I've been CEO of this company, I have not had any discussions with Chinese government officials.
So but what about the Chinese Communist Party itself? Have any of those officials discussed this with you?
Like I said, I have not had any discussion with Chinese government officials. I don't know the political affiliation of everybody I speak to, so I can't verify the statement.
Let me ask you a question in a different direction. A few weeks ago, this committee had a field hearing down in McAllen, Texas, and it was on the issue of fentanyl and illegal immigration. And one of our witnesses, Brandon Judd, a 25-year veteran Border Patrol agent, said that all social media platforms play a role in illegal immigration. That's one of the ways cartels advertise their services throughout the world and convince people to put themselves in their hands and come to the United States. The cartels all use social media platforms. Are you aware of this phenomenon?
Any content that promotes human abuse is violative of our community guidelines, which dictates what is allowed and not allowed on our platform. We proactively identify and remove them from our platform.
It would be very helpful if you would share with the committee examples of how you have removed people, because what we heard at the hearing was that TikTok was one of the platforms that recruits adolescents in the United States to help with transporting people who are in the country who've been trafficked into the country, as well as contraband substances. Would you help us with that, understanding who you have removed from your platform?
Congressman, I'll be delighted to check with my team and get back to yours and be collaborative.
Thank you. I'll yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair recognizes the lady from California, Ms. Eshu, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Chu, thank you for being here today. As members of Congress, our very first and top responsibility is to protect and defend. Protect and defend our Constitution and the national security of our country. So I view this entire issue, now there are many parts of it that are not part of our national security, in my view, but first and foremost for our national security. So in examining TikTok, breaking away from ByteDance. I'd like to ask you some questions about that and how a severance in terms of the relationship with ByteDance, how user data, American users' data, would be protected. Now, under Beijing's security laws, Article 7 compels companies to provide data. Article 10 makes the reach of the law extraterritorial. Now, this is very clear. I don't need to read all of it into the record, but those are the laws of the PRC. How does ByteDance, how does TikTok, rather, how do you convince the Congress of the United States that there can be a clean break? Why would the Chinese government sidestep their national law, including Article 7, Article 10, in terms of user data?
Congressman, thank you for the question. I'm glad you asked this. As I said in the opening statement, our plan is to move American data to be stored on American soil by the American company.
I understand that, but you're sidestepping, or I haven't read anything in terms of TikTok, how you can actually say, and you spoke in your opening statement about a firewall relative to the data. But the Chinese government has that data. How can you promise that that will move into the United States of America and be protected here?
Congresswoman, I have seen no evidence that the Chinese government has access to that data. They have never asked us. We have not provided.
Well, you know what? I find that actually preposterous.
I have looked in,
I
I have
really
seen no
do.
evidence of this happening. And in order to assure everybody here and all our users, our commitment is to move the data into the United States to be stored on American soil by an American company, overseen by American personnel. So the risk will be similar to any government going to an American company asking for data. If that,
Well, I'm one that doesn't believe that there is really a private sector in China. And when you look at their national law and what specifically these two articles, Article 7 and Article 10, are very clear. So I think that there is a real problem relative to our national security about the protection of the user data. I don't believe that TikTok has, that you have said or done anything to convince us that information, the personal information of 150 million Americans, that the Chinese government is not going to give that up. So
Congressman,
can you tell me who writes the algorithms for TikTok?
today, the algorithm that powers the US user experience is running in the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. Yes, you know, initially there were parts of the source code, especially at the infrastructure layer, that doesn't touch the user experience. Now that's a collaborative global effort, including built by engineers in China, just like many other companies, by the way. The phone you use, the car you drive is a global collaborative effort. Now, but today, the business sites and the main parts of the code for TikTok is written by TikTok employees. And Congresswoman, what we are offering is third-party monitoring of our source code. I am not aware of any company, American companies or otherwise, that has actually done that. Because we are saying we want to give you transparency and rely on third parties to make sure that we get all the comfort that we need about the experience.
Well, my time is up and I yield back. Thank you.
Lady yields back. Pleased to yield to the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Latta, for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Unlike the Chinese Communist Party, the United States believes in individual freedom, innovation, and entrepreneurship. That is in part why Congress enacted Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Our goal is to promote growth of the online ecosystem in the United States and to protect companies from being held liable for good faith efforts to moderate their platforms. Last year, a federal judge in Pennsylvania found that Section 230 protected TikTok from being held responsible for the death of a 10-year-old girl who participated in a blackout challenge, also known as the choking challenge. TikTok actively pushes video on her feed. Unfortunately, this is one of the many devastating examples of children losing their lives because of content promoted by TikTok. Section 230 was never intended to shield companies like yours from amplifying dangerous and life-threatening content to children. Do you consider this to be a good faith moderation?
Congressman, as a father myself, when I hear about the tragic deaths of
My
young
question is,
people,
do
it's
you
heartbreaking.
find that good faith moderation?
Well, Congressman, Section 230 is a very
Okay,
complex issue.
yes or no?
We are very focused on safety, and all
Okay,
these
I'm
dangerous
gonna have to
challenges
assume
are
that as a
removed when
no.
we find them.
Do you believe TikTok deserves this liability protection?
I'm sorry, Congressman.
Do
I
you
didn't-
believe that TikTok deserves this liability protection under Section 230?
Congressman, as you pointed out, 230 has been very important for freedom of expression on the internet. It's one of the commitments we have given to this committee and our users, and I do think it's important to preserve that. But companies should be raising the bar on safety.
Let me
I
follow
really
up.
agree
Let
with
me
that.
just follow up real quickly from your own testimony. When you told us and you repeated it, we'll keep safety, particularly for teenagers, a top priority for us. When you're saying you're making that following commitment, why did you have to wait till now to make that following commitment now and not having done it before when this 10-year-old lost her life?
Congressman, I'm reiterating the commitment
Okay.
internally in all my priorities, which is public to my employees.
Okay, this is
Safety has always been a priority.
This company is a picture-perfect example of why this committee in Congress needs to take action immediately to amend Section 230. When we recently met, I asked you if the Chinese Communist Party can currently access user data, and you did not have a clear answer. So today I want to follow up. You heard it a little bit, but I want to be absolutely sure of this answer. Are employees of ByteDance subject to Chinese law, including the 2017 National Intelligence Law, which requires any organization or citizen to support, assist, and cooperate with state intelligence work in accordance with the law?
Like many companies, including many American companies, we rely on a global workforce, including engineers in China.
Okay, but
So
no,
in
yes
the-
or no?
So
Yes.
in the past, yes.
I'm
In
sorry?
the past, yes, but we are building Project Texas, and we're committing the
Okay.
firewall
I'm-
of
I'm-
all
okay, I'm-
protected
I'm
data
taking
from
that as a-
unwanted foreign
I'm
access.
taking that as a yes because, again, on your Article 7, the Article 7 of the 2017 National Intelligence Law, which I just said, because it says, in addition, as was asked a little bit earlier, the 2014 counter-espionage law states that when the state security organ investigates and understands the situation of espionage and collect relevant evidence, the relevant organizations and individuals, it does not say may, it says shall provide it truthfully and may not refuse. Yes or no? Do any ByteDance employees in China, including engineers, currently have access to U.S. user data?
Today, all US user data is stored by default in the Oracle Cloud
Question.
infrastructure, and
That's the
access to
question.
that
The
is
question
controlled
do any
by American
ByteDance
personnel.
employees in China, including engineers, currently have access to U.S. data?
Congressman, I would appreciate this. This is a complex topic. Today, all data is
Yes,
stored
yes or
by
no? It's
default.
not that complex. Yes or no, do they have access to user data?
We have, after Project Texas is done, the answer is no. Today, there is
Yeah,
still
so
some
you're
data
saying
that we need
yes,
to delete.
but we've heard
from
already
Virginia
from the
and
ranking member that he doesn't really see that Project Texas is going to be useful. So I think I'm taking that as a no because again, the question is what came to come up earlier, are that on December the 22nd of last year, when ByteDance confirmed some of its Chinese employees had accessed TikTok data to monitor and track the physical location of journals. So I took that as a yes from an earlier answer. You know, earlier this week, you posted a TikTok videos asking American users to mobilize in support of your app and oppose the potential U.S. government action to ban TikTok in the United States. Based on the established relationship between your company and the Chinese Communist Party, it's impossible for me to conclude that the video is anything different than the type of propaganda that the CCP requires Chinese companies to push on its citizens. Now yield back.
Yields back. Chair recognizes the lady from Colorado, Ms. DeGette, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, like my colleagues, I'm concerned about the influence of China on TikTok and what that does for U.S. users. But I'm also concerned about how the content in TikTok is being distributed, particularly to young people. This is not a problem unique to TikTok, but TikTok has 150 million users in the United States. And so I think you'll agree that TikTok has a particular responsibility to monitor content to make sure that it's safe and accurate. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, I agree with that.
So, you know, I know you said in your opening statement there's a ban or limited for kids under 13 and under 18 and so on. But I know it won't be news for you that computer savvy kids actually can bypass some of those restrictions quite frequently, and they can do it even if they have parental oversight. And so what I want to ask you is rather than putting the burden on young people and parents to accurately put in the birth date and so on when registering for TikTok, I want to ask you what TikTok can do to make sure to monitor this content. And I want to give you some examples of some of the extreme content. Mr. Latta talked about the blackout challenge and some of the dangers to young people's safety, but there's also extreme content around healthcare information. In one study, 13 out of 20 results for the question, does mugwort induce abortion? It talked about herbal so-called abortifacients like papaya seeds, which don't work. And so if people searching for information on safe abortions went on TikTok, they could get devastatingly incorrect information. Another study showed that TikTok had a hydroxychloroquine tutorial on how to fabricate this from grapefruit. Now, there's two problems with that. Number one, hydroxychloroquine is not effective in treating COVID. So that's one issue. The second issue is you can't even make hydroxychloroquine from grapefruit. So again, this is a really serious miscommunication about healthcare information that people looking at TikTok are able to get. And in fact, it's being pushed out to them. So I want to know from you, and I will give you time to answer this. You have current controls, but the current controls are not working to keep this information mainly from young people, but from Americans in general. What more is TikTok doing to try to strengthen its review to keep this information from coming across to people?
Thank you for the question, Congresswoman. The dangerous misinformation that you mentioned is not allowed on our platform. It violates them.
I'm sorry to report it is on your platform, though.
Congresswoman, I don't think I can sit here and say that we are perfect in doing this. We do work very
So
hard.
how can you make yourself more perfect? I don't want you to say it's not there or you apologize. What can you do to limit it as much as possible, more than what you're doing now?
We invest a significant amount in our content moderation work. I shared that number in my written.
I know
testimony.
you're investing,
Yes.
but what steps are you taking to improve the AI or whatever else you're doing to limit this content?
For example, if you search for certain search terms, we do direct you on TikTok to safety resources. That's one of the things we have done. We will continue to invest in this. I recognize and fully align with you that this is a problem that faces our industry, that we need to really invest and address. This, I'm very in alignment. The vast majority of our users come to our platform for entertaining, safe content, but there are people who do spout some dangerous misinformation, and we need to take that very seriously, invest in it, proactively identify it, and remove it from our platform.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right now. I asked you specifically how you're trying to increase your review of this. and you gave me only generalized statements that you're investing, that you're concerned, that you're doing more. That's not enough for me. That's not enough for the parents of America. I'm going to ask you to supplement your testimony and have your experts tell me what you're doing to make this a higher level of scrutiny, not just pablum at a hearing. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you.
Lady yields back. Chair recognizes gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Hudson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman Morse Rogers, for holding this important hearing. I appreciate the witness, Mr. Shoji Chu, for making yourself available here today. While many consider TikTok to be just another video sharing app, in reality, TikTok has been functioning as a massive surveillance program, collecting vast swaths of personal data from more than 1 billion people worldwide. This includes data from the personal devices of federal employees, contractors, and most concerning, U.S. military service members and their families at places like Fort Bragg in North Carolina. As Fort Bragg's congressman, I have serious concerns about the opportunities TikTok gives the Chinese Communist Party to access the non-public sensitive data of our men and women in uniform. This personal data and location information can be harvested and could be used for blackmail, to conduct espionage, and possibly even reveal troop movements. While the Department of Defense and most agencies have banned TikTok on government-issued devices, I believe more needs to be done at the command level to urge troops and their dependents to erase the app from the personal devices and keep them off home Wi-Fi. Having an app banned on a device in one pocket but downloaded on your device in the other doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I believe Congress and DoD should address the continued use of TikTok on military installations, as well as any use that depicts U.S. military operations. Mr. Chu, does TikTok access the home Wi-Fi network?
Only if the user turns on the Wi-Fi. I'm sorry, I may not understand the.
So if I have
President.
TikTok app on my phone and my phone is on my home Wi-Fi network, does TikTok access that network?
It will have to access the network to get connections to the internet, if that's the question.
Is it possible then that it could access other devices on that home Wi-Fi network?
Congressman, we do not do anything that is beyond any industry norms. I believe the answer to your question is no. It could be technical. Let me get back to you.
Okay, I'd appreciate it if you can answer that. I'd like to change directions real quick. Do you receive personal employment, salary, compensation, or benefits from ByteDance?
Yes, I do.
What is your salary from ByteDance?
Congressman, if you don't mind, I would prefer to keep my compensation private.
Okay. Do you personally have any company shares or stock in ByteDance or Douyin?
Congressman, if you don't mind, I would like to keep my personal assets private.
Is TikTok the company your only source of employment compensation? Where's your other source of income outside of TikTok?
It's my only source of compensation.
Do you have any financial debts or obligations to ByteDance, Douyin, or any other ByteDance affiliated entity?
Personally? No, I do not.
Does your management team receive separate salary, compensation, or benefits from ByteDance?
We receive salaries from the entities that we are employed in, but we do share in the employee stock option plan that is available from the ByteDance top company.
So your primary salary comes from TikTok, but you have other compensation that comes directly from ByteDance?
You can characterize it as that, yes.
Does your management team have company shares or stock in ByteDance or Douyin?
Yes, some of our employees are compensated in shares in ByteDance.
Does TikTok share technological resources with Douyin? Are the two technology systems or IT systems interconnected in any way?
There are, as with many companies, some shared resources on some services, but it doesn't include anything that involves US user data, Congressman, is in Project Texas, as we talked about, stored by default in American soil by an American company.
But currently there is shared technology or interconnected IT systems.
Congressman, with respect, I have to get back to you. This could be a very broad question. Like, for example, we could all be using Microsoft Windows.
If you could get back with details on that, I'd appreciate
Yes.
it. Can Douyin personnel or employees access TikTok user data?
Not after Project Texas, this is not allowed.
Are there employees who are employed by both Douyin and TikTok?
I do not believe so.
Okay. And so I don't believe so. Is that I mean, again, I'll allow you to come back in a written response if you could give me a definitive answer.
I will go back and check to be very sure.
Okay, thank you. I'm also concerned about an issue that our chairwoman brought up about an apparent pattern of misinformation or misrepresentation from your company in regards to the amount and extent of data that you're collecting, as well as how much has been accessed from inside China. There are dozens of public reports that conclude individuals in the People's Republic of China have been accessing data on U.S. users, directly contradicting several public statements by TikTok employees. And I'm referencing Project Raven, which was first reported on by Forbes last October. Their investigation revealed, I'm sorry, I'm about out of time. Do you want to respond to that?
Yes, Congressman. We do not condone the effort by certain former employees to access US TikTok user data in an attempt to identify the source of leaked confidential information. We condemn these actions. After learning about them, we found a highly reputable law firm to thoroughly investigate the incident. We took swift disciplinary action against employees who were found to be involved and are implementing measures to make sure this doesn't happen again. We have made this team available to you. I think they have briefed many of you in this committee very extensively, and I will continue to make them very available to you as part of our transparent commitment.
Thank you. My time's expired. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the lady from Illinois, Ms. Sherkowski, for 5 minutes.
Thank you. So today, in the Wall Street Journal, they said today, China's commerce minister said that China opposes the sale of TikTok because it would involve exporting China's technology and would, and this is the important part, and would need to be approved by the Chinese government, would need to be approved by the Chinese government. So all of what you've been saying about the distance between TikTok and China has been said to be not true in the paper today, and I would like to see what you have to say in response.
Congresswoman, I do disagree with that characterization. I think we have designed Project Texas to protect US user interests and to move forward here in the US. Again, it's the protections of storing American data on American soil by an American company looked after by American personnel. And I do not think that our commitments to this committee and all our users is impacted by any event that you mentioned. Now, the whole discussion on this, the resolution of this is an ongoing and developing event. So we will continue to pay attention to this, and we'll get back to you when we have more specifics.
So if
my
it's
commitments stand. Yeah.
Okay, so if it's an ongoing debate, apparently with China, so it's hard to say with any certainty that China would not have any influence. But let me ask another question. Last fall, along with Gus Bilirakis, who were chair and co-chair of the subcommittee together, were told that TikTok had surveilled, was involved in surveillance of users, very personal information. And you might say, well, not more than other companies, and I agree with Ranking Member Pallone that I really don't want to go by that standard particularly, but that TikTok's in-app browser surveilled everything from Americans, including passwords and credit card numbers, etc. So I just want to ask you if TikTok did track and collect this sensitive data that Americans don't want to have disclosed.
Congressman, thank you. I'm glad you asked this question because, like you pointed out, we actually do not believe we collect more data than any other social media company out there. A lot of these reports, and we can talk about which specific one you're talking about, a lot of them are not that accurate. Some of them we have we have actually gotten in touch with the authors to help them understand the data that we're collecting. A lot of it is speculation. This is something they could do. But if you look at the subtext, this is something that
So
every company could do.
I'm running out of time. Let me just say that if TikTok chose not to take this sensitive information that you don't need for a transaction and support our comprehensive privacy bill, that would be very helpful. The other thing I wanted to ask, so really this is a yes or no, that does TikTok share user information from companies, from parent companies, from affiliated, or send user information to overseas?
In the past, yes, for interoperability purposes. Now, after Project Texas, all protected US data will be stored here with the access controlled by a special team of US personnel. Again, Congresswoman, this is something that, as far as I understand, no other company, including American companies, are willing to go. So maybe this is something that we can ask the industry to provide, not just us, to
But
protect
in the
US user
case of
interests.
sharing information, I do want to quote from employees that you had, and here's the quote: everything is seen in China, is really what they said. People who were in touch with the sensitive data were saying that. How do you respond to that?
I disagree with that statement.
Well, I know you disagree with that statement, but my point is, how does that happen that employees of the company are saying that in fact that's not true?
I cannot speak to, I don't know who this person is, so I cannot speak to what the person has or has not said. What I can say is, based on my position in this company and the responsibility that I have, that statement is just not true.
Okay, unfortunately, and I'll close, I guess I'm over my time. We need to look into the facts of this, and so do you. And I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes the lady from Florida, Ms. Kamick, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Shou, are you aware of Chinese Communist Party leader Chairman Xi Jinping's comments in May 2021 during a Communist Politburo study session where he instructed colleagues to target different countries, different audiences with short form video? Are you aware of these comments? Yes or no?
Congressman, I'm not aware of these comments.
Okay. Well, and as was pointed out by Chairwoman Rogers, you have regular contact with Chinese Communist Party Secretary, Mr. Zhang Fuping, who is your boss at ByteDance, correct?
No,
No.
no. He's
Interesting.
neither my boss, nor do we have frequent contact.
But you have regular contact with ByteDance,
With the CEO of ByteDance.
who is Mr. Zhang Fuping is the
He's not.
editor-in-chief.
He's not
My
the CEO.
colleague, Representative Burgess, a few minutes ago exposed that TikTok and ByteDance share legal teams. You confirmed this, correct?
Our general counsel is
Yes.
an
Yes or
American lawyer,
Yes.
veteran of Microsoft.
Also, my
many years.
colleague, Representative Latta, confirmed that your parent company, ByteDance, currently can access user data. Yes?
We have to be more
Yes.
specific.
Yes.
After
You
Project
say-
Texas, no.
I'm not asking after Project Texas, I'm asking now. Yes.
Some user data is public data, Congresswoman, which
So
means
you confirm
everybody
that.
can search
What's
for it on the
interesting to
internet.
me is that you've used the word transparency over a half a dozen times in your opening testimony and subsequently again in your answers to my colleagues. Yet the interesting thing to me is that ByteDance, your parent company, has gone out of their way to hide and airbrush corporate structure, ties to the CCP, the company's founder, and their activities. You can look no further than the fact that ByteDance website has been scrubbed. In fact, we found web pages from the Beijing Internet Association, the industry association charged with Communist Party building work of internet companies in Beijing. They have been archived, but since deleted. Makes you kind of wonder why. Yes or no, ByteDance is required to have a member of the Chinese government on its board with veto power. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct. ByteDance owns some Chinese businesses, and you're talking about this very special subsidiary that is
Mr.
for
Shou,
Chinese business
Mr.
licensing.
Shou,
purpose.
I'm going to have to move on. You've said repeatedly that there is no threat, that this is a platform for entertainment and for fun. I have to ask you then, if there is no threat to Americans, if there is no threat to our data, privacy, security, why did an internal memo from TikTok corporate headquarters explicitly coach senior management to, quote, downplay the parent company ByteDance? Why would they say downplay the China Association and downplay AI? This is from an internal memo from your company. Why, if you had nothing to hide, would you need to downplay the association with ByteDance in China?
Congresswoman, I have not seen
You
this
can't-
memo.
You
What I
can't
can
answer that
say-
question. Mr. Show, I'd like to direct your attention to the screen for a short video, if you don't mind. Mr. Show, that video was posted 41 days ago. As you can see, it is captioned me as F at the House Energy and Commerce Committee on March 23rd of this year. This video was posted before this hearing was publicly noticed. I think that's a very interesting point to raise. But more concerning is the fact that it names this chairwoman by name. Your own community guidelines state that you have a firm stance against enabling violence on or off TikTok. We do not allow people to use our platform to threaten or incite violence or to promote violent extremist organizations, individuals, or acts. When there is a threat to public safety or an account is used to promote or glorify off-platform violence, we ban the account. This video has been up for 41 days. It is a direct threat to the chairwoman of this committee, the people in this room, and yet it still remains on the platform. And you expect us to believe that you are capable of maintaining the data security, privacy, and security of 150 million Americans where you can't even protect the people in this room? I think that is a blatant display of how vulnerable people who use TikTok are. You couldn't take action after 41 days when a clear threat, a very violent threat to the chairwoman of this committee and the members of this committee was posted on your platform. You damn well know that you cannot protect the data and security of this committee or the 150 million users of your app because it is an extension of the CCP. And with that, I yield back.
Can I respond, Chair?
No, we're going to move on. Gentlelady yields back. Chairman recognizes the lady from California, Ms. Matsui, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I'm really glad that we're having this very important hearing here today. And let me just say, make no mistake, the Chinese government represents a real and immediate threat. Look no further than even the vulnerable gear still in our telecom networks that needs to be ripped and replaced. But we can't lose sight of the important internet governance issues TikTok and other social media companies represent. I'm especially committed to demanding transparency from large platforms about the algorithms that shape our online interactions, especially for teenagers and young users. And that's why I introduced the Algorithmic Justice and Online Platform Transparency Act to bring greater visibility into this ecosystem. My bill would prohibit algorithms that discriminate on the basis of race, age, gender, ability, and other protected characteristics. It also would establish a safety and effectiveness standard for algorithms while requiring new forms of oversight. Now, this bill would require online platforms to publish annual public reports detailing their content moderation practices, which I believe should be a baseline requirement to enable meaningful oversight and consumer choice. Mr. Chu, just yes or no, do you believe a requirement for annual content moderation practices for social media platforms would be beneficial? Yes or no?
Yes.
This transparency bill would also require online platforms to maintain detailed records describing their algorithmic process for review by the Federal Trade Commission in compliance with key privacy and data identification standards. Mr. Chu, Does TikTok currently maintain records describing their algorithmic processes? Yes or no?
Congressman, I will need to check and get back to you on what kind of specific records you are talking
Okay,
about.
I wait for that. Over the past few years, alarming information brought to light by whistleblowers have shown that social media companies are intimately aware of the effect their products have on young women, political extremism, and more. Despite this, they withheld those studies or declined to investigate further. In either case, it shows a pattern evasive or negligent behavior that I find concerning and extreme. Mr. Chu, does TikTok conduct its own studies on the effect of its algorithms and content distribution models on mental health or safety? And if so, how and when are those findings made public? And if not, do you believe they are necessary?
Congresswoman, we rely on external third parties and fund their research to help us understand some of these issues. For example, we worked with the Digital Wellness Lab at the Boston Children's Hospital to understand the 60-minute time limit that we put for all our under 18 users. And we are supportive of legislation that provides more funding for research, like, for example, for the NIH.
Okay.
Yeah.
TikTok tailors its recommended content based on user activity to encourage people to spend more time on the app. While this practice is by no means unique to TikTok, given the prevalence of young users and the digestible nature of short-form video, I'm concerned about the app's tendency to exacerbate existing mental health challenges. Mr. Chu, does TikTok have different policies for amplifying content that would be related to depression or dieting versus content like gardening and sports? If yes, describe these policy differences. If no, why not?
Congressman, thank you for that. This is a great question. The answer is yes. We are trying out some policies together with experts to understand certain contents that are not inherently harmful, like extreme fitness, for example, but shouldn't be seen too much. And these are models that we're building, and we are trying to understand, together with experts, how to best implement them across our platform, particularly for younger users,
Okay,
under
so
18. Yeah.
in cases where users have been engaging with potentially harmful content, I believe it's imperative that the app take steps to moderate that behavior rather than continuing to promote it. I mean, in a sense, be
I
very
apologize.
intentional about that.
I wasn't clear. First, anything that is violative and harmful, we remove. What I meant to say were content that is not inherently harmful. Like some of the extreme fitness videos about people running 100 miles. It's not inherently harmful, but if we show them too much, the experts are telling us that we should disperse them more and make sure that they're not seen too regularly,
So
especially
you're
by
very
younger users.
intentional about that then. It's something that you'll
We are working
Extreme
on it,
moderate.
yes. Yeah.
You're working on it?
Yes.
Okay. I yield back.
Jenny, gentle lady yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Bill Rockus, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for holding this hearing. Mr. Chu, your algorithms have prioritized providing harmful content directly to children, like self-harm challenges and even suicide. Just 3 days ago, Italy opened an investigation into the TikTok over user safety concerns after the so-called French scar challenge went viral on your platform. I know you know about the blackout challenge, which others may know as the choking challenge that encourages children to bring them to the point of unconsciousness or in some cases, tragically, death. If that isn't enough, I want to share the story of Chase Naska, a 16-year-old boy from New York who tragically ended his life a year ago by stepping in front of a train. I want to thank his parents. Again, they are here. I want to thank his parents for being here today and allowing us to show this. Mr. Chu, your company destroyed their lives. Your company destroyed their lives. I admire their courage to be here and share Chase's story in the hopes that it will prevent this from happening to other families. The content in Chase's For You page was not a window to discovery, as you boldly claimed in your testimony. It wasn't content from a creator that you invited to roam the hill today, or STEM education content that children in China see. Instead, his For You page was sadly a window to discover suicide. It is unacceptable, sir, that even after knowing all these dangers, you still claim TikTok is something grand to behold. I want you to see what Chase would see. And I think if you want, again, would you share this content with your children, with your two children? Would you want them to see this? And again, I want to warn everyone watching that you may find this content disturbing, but we need to watch this, please.
Blair took. You got to kill yourself.
Oh, word? Like right now?
And then I'm gonna put a shotgun in my mouth and blow the brains out of the back of my head.
Cool.
This is a cute story. My brother, who is addicted to painkillers, blew his head off on the State Street Bridge. Bam! Now hold on, it gets better. No letter, no goodbye, nothing. Got a question. If I died, would you miss me?
Mr. Chu, please. Your technology is literally leading to death. Mr. Chu, yes or no? Do you have full responsibility for your algorithms used by TikTok to prioritize content to its users? Yes or no, please?
Congressman, I'll just like to, if respectfully, if you don't mind, I would just like to start by saying it's devastating to hear about the news of,
Yes.
as a
yes.
father myself, this is
Sir,
tragic.
yes or no? I'll repeat the question. Do you have full responsibility over the algorithms used by TikTok to prioritize content to its users? Yes or no, please?
Congressman, we do take these issues very seriously.
Yes or no?
And we do provide resources for anyone who types in anything that
Sir,
is suicide
yes or
related.
no? I see you're not willing to answer the question or take any responsibility for your parents' companies, the technology, and the harms it creates. It's just very, very sad. Very sad.
It's very sad.
This is why Congress needs to enact a comprehensive privacy and data security law to give Americans more control over their information and to protect our children. We must save our children from big tech companies like yours who continue to abuse and manipulate them for your own gain. And I'll yield back, Madam Chair.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the lady from Florida, Ms. Castor, for 5 minutes. Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, it is urgent that the Congress pass an online data privacy law that protects the personal privacy of Americans online, and particularly our kids. While this hearing shines a light on TikTok, this hearing also should serve as a call to action for the Congress to act now to protect Americans from surveillance, tracking, personal data gathering, and addictive algorithmic operations that serve up harmful content and has a corrosive effect on our kids' mental and physical well-being. For many years, I've sounded the alarm in this committee of how big tech platforms like TikTok and Facebook and Instagram incessantly surveil, track, gather personal private information, and use it along with data brokers to target and influence our behavior. This is a much broader issue than TikTok in China. There are other malign actors across the world who gather data to use it as an element of social control and influence peddling and worse. And as I detailed in this committee last year when we passed our online privacy law, the harms to children are very serious. and demand swift action. Big tech platforms profit immensely from keeping children addicted. They do not care about the privacy, safety, and health of our kids. They are the modern day tobacco and cigarette companies that for so long resisted and misled Congress. And it took action by the Congress to actually protect our kids and to outlaw smoking by young people. In early 2020, based upon the growing body of evidence to harm to kids online, I introduced the Kids Privacy Act and the Kids Act. And I want to thank all of the researchers, the young people, the parents, the Surgeon General of the United States who have explained the correlation between social media usage and body dissatisfaction, disordered eating habits, anxiety, depression, self-injury, suicide ideation, and cyberbullying. Heck, Frances Haugen, the Facebook whistleblower, was right here and testified to us that Facebook and Instagram conducted research on this topic. They knew and understood the harms, but they continued to elevate profits over the well-being of children. And TikTok does the same. Last Congress, when we passed the ADPPA, the committee incorporated many of these important child online privacy and safety provisions from my bills, but we can make the 118th Congress's version of this bill, of this new law, even more protective of children, and I look forward to working with the chair and the ranking member to make that happen. Mr. Chu, TikTok has incredible sway over children in the U.S., but you don't have a very good track record. In 2019, TikTok was hit with the largest civil penalty by the Federal Trade Commission in a children's privacy case. 4 years later, TikTok still has not taken sufficient action to fix the problems. I assume because child users are incredibly profitable to your bottom line. So answer me this. TikTok allows advertisers to specifically target advertising to children aged 13 to 17, correct?
Congresswoman, I do want to disagree
Yes
with
or
the
no?
statement that child
Just-
abuses are not allowed on our
Just
platform
yes
at
or
all. It's
no?
deplorable
Do you target-
conduct
do you
and it's not
target-
allowed on our
do you
platform.
target advertising to young people aged 13 to 17?
We do serve personalized
Okay, thank
advertising at this point,
And
but the
how
policies
much
are very
money-
safe for
How
them.
much money does TikTok make selling ads targeted to minors?
Congresswoman, can I clarify minors in what age?
From just say age 13 to 17.
For the teenager population, I want to clarify that we do have a under 13 experience and zero advertising on that platform. For
And
those
well, that's a whole other topic.
between 13 and 17, if you don't mind, I'll check into my team and get back to you on those answers.
You know, TikTok could be designed to minimize the harm to kids, but a decision was made to aggressively addict kids in the name of profits. And it's our responsibility, members, to act swiftly to address this. This has gone on for too long. We've dilly-dallied too much. This committee, thankfully, we've taken responsibility and acted, but we have an enormous responsibility to act swiftly and get this bill to the floor of the House and passed into law as soon as possible. Thank you. I yield back my time.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Johnson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, I'm an information technology professional, been doing it for the most of my life. You've been evasive in many of your answers. I'm going to talk to you in some language that maybe you'll better understand, ones and zeros, okay? Let's talk about the Citizen Lab report. This is something your team frequently mentions in hearings as a way to exonerate yourself. For example, in the limitations section, it reads, we could not examine every source code component and test in the apps in every circumstance, which means our methods could not find every security issue, privacy violation, and censorship event. So it's an incomplete assessment. The report notes that TikTok's data collection using third-party trackers was in apparent conflict with the GDPR and that multiple themes were censored by TikTok. What is shocking to me is the shared source code between TikTok in the United States and the CCP-censored Douyin. The Citizen Labs report says that many of the functions and classes were identical, and that the differences in behavior between TikTok in the United States and Douyin in China are slight changes in hard-coded values. Incredibly, specific censorship parameters from Douyin are present in TikTok, but just turned off. The authors say that for unknown reasons, the parameter variable itself is preserved. So while Citizen Lab may have been afraid to say the obvious conclusion, Mr. Chu, I am not. TikTok's source code is riddled with backdoors and CCP censorship devices. Here's the truth. In a million lines of code, the smallest shift from a 0 to a 1 on just one of thousands of versions of TikTok on the market will unlock explicit CCP censorship and access to American data. Mr. Chu, as CEO of TikTok, why have you not directed your engineers to change this source code?
Congressman, thank you for the question.
Have you directed them to change the source code?
Like what we are offering and
Yes
my
or
fourth
no?
commitment?
Have you directed them to change that source code?
Congressman, if you give me a bit of time to just
No,
explain this.
I don't. It's a yes or no question. Have you directed your engineers to change that source code?
I'm not sure I understand.
Why are you allowing TikTok to continue to have the capacity for censorship, and yet you claim here that you don't? Let me remind
doesn't.
you of something. Do you realize that making false and misleading statements to Congress is a federal crime?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So have you directed your engineers to change that source code?
I am giving third-party access monitoring
Okay.
by experts. And Congressman, you are an expert on this. You could agree with me that no other company
TikTok
does
source
this.
code is the same as Douyin? What percentage?
I can get back to you on the specifics.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Where was the source code for TikTok developed? Was it developed in China or in the United States?
It's a global collaborative effort, like a lot of
Was it
code for a
developed
lot of
in,
companies.
was it developed in China? Some of it?
Some of it is.
Okay, at ByteDance. When it's compiled in the compilation process, can bytecode be manipulated? We've talked a lot about source code. What about the bytecode, the ones and zeros that actually execute on the device? Can
To
it
give
be
you comfort,
manipulated? Yes.
Congressman, to give you comfort, that's why we're giving third-party monitors.
Yes,
As an expert, I think you can agree that very few companies
I've got
offer
the
to do this.
report here by Citizen Lab. I want to read you something from Ron Diebert. Specifically, in your written testimony to Congress, you stated on page 9, Citizen Lab found that there was no overt data transmission by TikTok to the Chinese government and that TikTok did not contact any servers within China. You implied that Citizen Lab exonerated TikTok from any information sharing with China. Well, the director of Citizen Lab saw this and issued a statement correcting the record yesterday. And I'm quoting Ron Diebert, the director of the lab. I am disappointed that TikTok executives continue citing the Citizen Labs research in their statements to government as somehow exculpatory. I've called them out on this in the past, and it's unfortunate that I have to do it again, unquote. He goes on to say, and I quote, we even speculated about possible mechanisms through which the Chinese government might use unconventional techniques to obtain TikTok user data via pressure on ByteDance, end of quote. Mr. Chu, you sent Congress written testimony citing this lab as a support of your claim that China cannot access user data, US user data. And now this lab has come out to say, we never said that. That's misleading, Mr. Chu. I hope you understand what that is. That's misleading. Mr. Chu, this is yet another instance of TikTok attempting to mislead Americans about what their technology is capable of and who has access to their information. Madam Chair, I'd like to
Madam Chair, I
enter
would like
the
to respond to
statement
that
by
very
Ron
quickly,
Diebert
please.
and the Citizens Lab into the record.
Without objection.
With
so
that, I
ordered.
yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair yields to the gentleman from Maryland. Mr. Sarbanes, 5 minutes.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, I'm going to pick up on a theme we've already covered here, which is the effect that your platform, along with many other social media platforms, by the way, has in terms of mental and behavioral health in this country. I won't speak to what's happening elsewhere in the world, but we've talked about the impact that it's having on children, on teens. We took some action last year in this committee to try to improve access to resources. We authorized critical programs to address mental health needs, but we need to do even more than that. And we got to address what the big tech companies like TikTok are doing, because those are platforms that expose children, teens to additional risks. The more time that middle and high schoolers spend on social media, the evidence is the more likely they are to experience depression and anxiety. And this is particularly troubling since apparently 16% of American teenagers report that they use TikTok, quote, almost constantly. That's, I think, about 5 million teenagers in this country that are on TikTok all the time. And we know that big tech, including TikTok, uses design features that can manipulate users, including children and teens, to keep them engaged, designed to feed them a never-ending stream of content, keep their attention for hours on end, which includes capitalizing on the desire for others' approval through like features, preying on the fear of missing out through push notifications, and so forth. Again, you're part of an industry that's set up to do this. You, in some sense, don't appear to be able to help yourselves in reaching out and finding that new user and then holding on to them. TikTok itself has acknowledged that these features and others, like the endless scroll feature, can have an outsized effect on teens. And we've been discussing today how your app only intensifies that harm by amplifying dangerous content and misinformation. I don't want to be too paternalistic here, because we have young people in the audience. We've got TikTok users that are watching this hearing, and I'm sure they have their own ideas about how this technology is being managed by TikTok and other social media platforms. They like to access the platforms, and they should be able to do that safely. So it's certainly in their interest, and they can drive this conversation, I think, perfectly well. But it's not a fair fight, is it? I mean, the algorithms are on one side of the screen. The human brain is on the other side of the screen, drowning in these algorithms, in many instances at an age where the brain's not even fully developed yet. So those addictive impulses are being sort of perfected by the technology. And again, it leaves the users sort of helpless in the face of that. Are you looking at ways to redesign core features like the ones I mentioned to be less manipulative, and addictive for users? And can you commit to making some of those modifications here today?
Congressman, thank you. We do want to be leading in terms of safety of our users, particularly for teenagers. We were the first to launch a 60-minute watch limit.
Yeah, let's talk about the 60-minute launch.
And I'm very glad to see people, others in our industry follow. For many of your recommendations, we'll study them very seriously. We actually have a series of features. Like, for example, if you're under 16, you cannot use a direct messaging feature because we want to protect those younger users. If you're under 16, you cannot go viral by default. If you're under 18, you cannot go live. And
let me go back to the 60-minute limit, because my understanding is that teens can pretty easily bypass the notification to continue using the app if they want to. I mean, let's face it, our teens are smarter than we are by half, and they know how to use the technology, and they can get around these limits if they want to. Are you measuring how many teens continue to exceed the 60 minutes of time on that app?
We understand
sense how that's working.
We understand those concerns. Our intention is to have the teens and their parents have these conversations about what is the appropriate amount of time for social media. That's why we give the parents what we call family
pairing. Let me ask you this question before I run out of time. If you concluded that putting some reasonable limits in place and trying to find a way to enforce them would lead some percentage of your users to leave TikTok and go somewhere else, is that something that you're prepared to accept?
Yes.
Really? Well, I'd love to get the research on how these limits are being implemented, how they're being bypassed, and the things that you're taking, the measures you're taking to address those issues going forward. please bring that information back to our committee as we move forward.
I'll be happy to.
I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Guthrie, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for yielding. I appreciate the time. Mr. Chu, your terms of service specifically state that TikTok does, and I quote, "not allow the depiction, promotion, or trade of drugs or other controlled substances." Despite this content being against your terms of service, and I've brought this up with other service providers, but despite this content being against your terms of service, content on your platform related to illicit drugs like fentanyl, drug trafficking, and other illicit activity is pervasive and racks up hundreds of thousands of views. For example, in 2020, the Benadryl challenge resulted in the death of an American teenager. And we heard of another one challenge earlier today that brought a death of a teenager. While you were at ByteDance, if you were the CFO for ByteDance, did doing allow related illicit drug trafficking or challenges resulting in death or injury to kids?
Congressman, I represent TikTok here today. I can tell you that TikTok does not allow illegal drugs content on our platform.
Do it did in China?
I believe they don't allow this, but I will need to check. I don't run their business. I
Because my
can tell you
question
TikTok
is-
does not allow this.
This is what we're concerned about, and my guess, and it would DUN allow for 41 days a threat against a member of the Chinese Communist Party to stand on their site for 41 days?
Again, I cannot speak for DouYin, and I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second part of what you said.
Well, that we had a threat against the chairman of our committee that was on your site for 41 days. My guess is that would not be allowed in China.
That content is, if it's violative, I will look into the specifics, and if it violates our guidelines, it will be taken down on TikTok.
Yeah, it surely
Yes.
appears that it does. But the problem is what I'm trying to get at is you seem to be able to prevent this content in China, but so not even taking it down, just prevent it from being posted, and yet it's on your website. So I have a couple of questions about, you said earlier, as soon as you find this information, you take it down. So how quickly does your algorithm detect keywords or content that involve illicit drug trafficking before these posts are self-reported or used by others?
We have about 40,000 people working on this now, together with the machines that we train. I don't think any company in our industry can be perfect at this. This is a real big challenge for our industry, but our goal is to get any violative content, including illegal drugs, down to a very, very small number.
That's the problem. When we have these hearings, we have CEOs of different companies and of your colleagues and competitors, and we always hear apologies and we always hear we want to do better at this, but it just doesn't seem to keep improving. And we still hearing stories of our children and obviously this has been talked about today. So how many posts and accounts have been identified and removed from TikTok due to content posted related to illicit drugs or other controlled substances?
Congressman, we do publish that in a transparency report. I can get my team to get the information to yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Also, we understand that the way that people use TikTok or other platforms similar to yours is that they ensure flagged user content isn't permitted to jump from. So my question, so what we've heard is that the instances the users see a drug advertisement and then give a code to go to another site. So my question is, do you work with other platforms to ensure flagged user content isn't permitted to jump from one platform to others?
I will check with my team. I would love to work with our industry to make sure that we stamp out these problems. Violative content should not be allowed on any platforms, in my opinion.
Well, so what's kind of frustrating to all of us here is that we look at what's happening on your sites and others, and particularly that we know because we've done a research that you can't have access to illicit drug information or others on DouYin, which is a sister company, as you say, in China. And so it absolutely, if you can prevent it on one and not the other, you obviously have the ability to stop it from moving forward, and yet you don't. Would you like to expand how one of your sister companies can prevent that and you're not? I know you don't represent DouYin, but they don't allow it, but it happens on your platform. What's the difference?
First of all, the majority of the content on TikTok is fun, entertaining, informative, and very positive for our users. Like other companies that operate in this country, we have to deal with some bad actors who come and publish some content on illegal drugs.
The bad actors don't seem to be able to access DouYin.
The TikTok US experience should be compared to other US companies because this is a common challenge.
But your parent company has the technology to prevent it because you prevent it in China, but you can't prevent it here. What's the difference? That's why I'm asking.
Oh, Congressman, there is no technology that is perfect in doing this. We have to deal with the reality of the country that we're operating in. And here in the United States, as with other companies, we share this challenge. we are investing a lot to address the challenge, but we are, it's a shared
But
challenge.
you
for
invest a
everyone.
lot to, seem to be able to address it in China, but not here.
Again, I think the comparison has been within the single country. We face the same set of challenges here in
What's
the
the
U.S.
difference with, I'm sorry, I'm out of time, but what's the difference in China and here?
Let me give you an example, Congressman. In my home country, Singapore, there is literally almost no illegal drug content because Singapore has very strict drug laws.
Thank you. My time's expired now. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Tonko, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm concerned that TikTok's algorithm preys on vulnerable people, including those struggling with addiction, eating disorders, and other mental health conditions. The platform is designed to push content to users that will watch more frequently and for longer periods of time. Unfortunately, for many people suffering from certain mental health disorders, videos that reinforce their fears or negative self-image are more engaging. On top of that, TikTok has received sensitive patient health information and records of browsing activity from multiple telehealth companies like BetterHelp, and Cerebral. People's personal struggles should not be fuel for TikTok's profits. People should be able to seek help to address serious medical concerns without being afraid that their information will be shared with social media companies trying to push more products, services, or content at them. So, Mr. Chu, will TikTok continue to get information from third parties on its users' health, including their mental health? Yes or no?
We will continue to work with experts, yes, if that's the question, to identify these issues.
Will you continue to get information from these third parties, including their mental health? Yes or no?
Congressman, I'm sorry, I may not understand your question. If your question is if I'm working with them on these issues, the answer is yes.
It's not the question, it's will you continue to get information from these third parties on its users' health?
Get information. We do not get any user health information from third parties, Congressman.
You've talked a lot about user privacy and safety. Will you commit here today to no longer using data about users' health, particularly their mental health, to push them content or sell ads? Yes or no?
We take our users' mental health very seriously.
Yes or no?
As far as I'm aware, we don't do that, Congressman. It's not what the.
So the answer is no. You will no longer use data about users' health. TikTok systematically exploits users' anxieties by pushing alarming and distressing content onto their For You page. For example, in May of 2022, the LA Times found that some pregnant users searching for information about their pregnancies on TikTok were then shown information about miscarriages, stillbirths, and delivery room traumas. Your company knows that distressing content can have the perverse effect of feeding user engagement. And for TikTok, engagement means money. In the course of a week, what percentage of content that a user sees is considered potentially harmful or distressing content?
Congressman, we work with a lot of experts on this. Even before we set the 60-minute time limit for under 18s, if you spend too much time on our platform, you can try it. If you spend too much time, we will actually send you videos to tell you to go out and get some air and get off the platform.
What percentage of content that a user sees is considered potentially harmful?
I will need to follow up with my team and get back to you on that, if that's okay.
Ballpark.
I will need to follow up with my team.
So are teenagers in particular shown more distressing content?
The opposite is true. We actually put in more restrictions to make sure that our teenagers get a better experience.
Are expectant or new parents shown more distressing content?
I know of many parents, including one I met recently, who actually use our platform to find communities, to connect with other parents and learn a lot more. I've heard amazing stories of creators who have difficulties, and
Reclaiming my time. Are individuals with eating disorders shown more distressing content?
We do not, we remove all content that glorifies eating disorders. And we have worked with experts to look at certain certain content that may not inherently be harmful, like diet trends, and make sure that we disperse them more throughout our algorithm.
What about those with mental health issues? Are they given more distressing content?
If a user searches, words that expresses mental health issues, we actually redirect them to a safety page. Like, for example, if you, I don't know if I should say this in public, if you search, I want to die, we will redirect you to a safety page, for example.
So what about those suffering from addiction? Are they given more distressing content?
I'm sorry, Congressman, I missed that question.
Those suffering from addiction, are they given more distressing content?
I missed the first few words. I apologize.
What about those suffering from addiction? Are they given more distressing content?
Those suffering from
Addiction.
addiction. Do you mean drug addiction or?
Yes, or any order of addiction.
If people search for content and you can try on a variety of subjects, we will actually direct you to a safety page to give you more resources. And a lot of recovering addicts have actually found the communities on TikTok, and it's really helped them, find their voices and the community and the courage to really overcome their addiction. I personally have heard stories of that.
Well, I appreciate your answers, but I was looking for yes or no, and we did not get those. And again, I think the more that they watch this distressing content, the more profit TikTok makes, and that's distressing.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Wahlberg, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we're glad that you're here, Mr. Chu. As Chair Rogers and Representative Burgess mentioned this morning, the Wall Street Journal reported that China will firmly oppose any forced sale or divestiture of TikTok. And this is based not on conjecture, but it's based on comments provided by the official spokesperson at the Ministry of Commerce, who said that any TikTok sale or spinoff would amount to a technology export and would have to adhere to Chinese law and approval. This spokesperson was quoted as saying the Chinese, and I quote, "The Chinese government will make decisions according to the law." The Chinese government. Mr. Chu, do you agree with this official? Yes or no?
Congressman, I cannot speak on behalf of a Chinese government official.
Do you agree with that official?
We will need to look at this because Project Texas is designed to move forward here in the United States, and we are not discussing this, so I don't have specifics.
You know, your company is valued at upwards of $50 billion and has been on the verge of forced sale or ban for 3 years at least, correct? Do you expect this committee to believe you haven't already discussed this scenario with your team? And you should have an answer to this, yes or no, I agree with the Communist Party, or I don't agree with the Communist Party. So, I guess I would say at that point, you disagree with the Communist Party. Explain your discrepancy.
Congressman, for 2 years, we spent $1.5 billion US to build Project Texas. This is after very extensive discussions with relevant folks.
Project Texas is just something expanded for the future. We're talking about now. We're talking about what you're doing now, what your expectations are now, what your relationship is with the Communist Party, which is our major concern of what the impact that will be with a country. Let me rephrase that. With a Communist Party that doesn't care about America and sees us as standing in their way for superpower. That's our concern, and for you to have direct relationship, direct ownership with ByteDance, and to not have a characterization or an agreement or disagreement that you say explicitly with this party policy, it's hard for us to believe what you're saying. Let me move on. Following up on what Mr. Latta asked about data accessed by Chinese engineers. In responding to Mr. Latta, you talked about where American user data would be stored in the future. But the question was about access today, storage in the future versus access today. This is total redirection. This blows up any trust we could desire to develop. So to be clear, Mr. Chu, today, do ByteDance employees in Beijing have access to American data?
Congressman, we have been very open about this. We have relied on global interoperability.
You have access to American data.
Congressman, I'm answering your question if you give me just a bit of time. We rely on global interoperability, and we have employees in China. So yes, the Chinese engineers do have access to global data.
You have access to global data.
We have heard.
Not storage.
No, storage has always been in Virginia and Singapore. The physical service.
You have no access to storage, to American data today.
That's not what I said. I said.
So you do have access to American data, and you have storage of American data.
The American data has always been stored in Virginia and Singapore in the past. And access of this is on an as required basis by
As
our
required
engineers
of who?
globally, by engineers for business purposes.
By
This is a
engineers,
private company.
ByteDance,
ByteDance,
from the Communist
TikTok-
Party?
No, no.
Why,
Uh,
how can you say that?
This is a
If
this
they
is a
have
private
access?
business. This is a private business, and is like many other businesses, many other American companies. We rely on the global workforce.
So the global workforce that includes ByteDance, which is connected directly to the Chinese Communist Party,
That is
has
the
access.
characterization that we disagree with. Now, in the
That's
future,
that's not what we can disagree with. That's a fact
it's not,
with
unfortunately.
the CEO of ByteDance and your
It is not.
relationship to them.
Congressman, respectfully, in my opening statement, I said this is a private company. It's owned 60% by global investors. 3 out of the 5 board members on ByteDance are Americans. This is a private business.
And you report directly to ByteDance with the
I re-
CEO who is a member of the Communist Party. Let me
He's-
move on.
he's not.
I think we got the answer. Sadly, at this point, I believe my time has expired, so I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Ms. Clark for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman Rogers. Thank the ranking member, Pallone, for holding today's hearing. Throughout this hearing, I also want to thank our witness for being here to testify on what are very important issues before us today. Throughout this hearing, my colleagues have outlined the potential threat posed by the security of Americans' data by TikTok being affiliated and some would say owned by a Chinese company. Foreign adversaries having direct access to Americans' data, as well as the ability to influence this content Americans see on a prolific social media platform, represents an unprecedented threat to American security and to our democracy. However, the problems of social media platforms, content moderation, algorithmic discrimination, and safety are neither new nor unique to TikTok. Mr. Chu, I share the concerns raised by my colleague, Congresswoman Matsui, related to algorithms. I believe that without mitigation against bias, platforms will continue to replicate, exacerbate discrimination that is illegal under civil rights law, as well as exclude important dialogue about sensitive topics like race from occurring on the platform. For example, I was disturbed by reports that TikTok content moderation algorithm flagged words like Black or Black Lives Matter as inappropriate content. So my first question, Mr. Chu, is do you agree that platforms like TikTok should be subject to regular audits or transparency requirements to identify whether policies have a disparate impact on communities that are protected classes like race, religion, national origin, or gender?
I think, Congresswoman, I think platforms should be very transparent on what they do there and disclose a lot of information. We can get back on the specifics of what we mean by an audit, but I do agree very strongly that platforms should be very transparent, and it's a commitment that we're giving to this committee and all our users, that our platform will be a place for freedom of expression. We embrace all diverse points of view, all ethnic minorities. You can come and say whatever you want, as long as you don't violate the rules of safety that were put in place. And we also commit to be free of all and any government manipulation. So I think I'm in strong agreement with a lot of what you said.
Well, thank you. My bill, the Algorithmic Accountability Act, would require platforms to be transparent about their algorithms, measure disparate impact, and require risk mitigation. It is vital that the diverse culture of the United States is reflected online, but I'm concerned the algorithms and content moderation practices employed by TikTok are ignorant to the fundamental diversity while also failing to remove content that is harmful, like child sexual abuse material, hate speech, or domestic terrorism content. My next question to you is, it's my understanding that users must be in good standing to be eligible for compensation from TikTok's Creator Fund. For example, they can have violated community guidelines. Is this correct?
There are some details there, but directionally, yes.
If TikTok's algorithm is flagging content incorrectly, resulting in creators violating community guidelines when in fact they have not, those creators would not be eligible to receive compensation under the Creator Fund, correct?
We do have an appeals process.
You have an appeals process, okay.
Yes,
In
yes.
my view, if TikTok employs algorithms that disproportionately remove content from Black creators, it disproportionately silences and excludes Black creators from compensation opportunities. And this problem happens in parallel to the lack of adequate recognition, attribution, and compensation to Black creatives for their content. The exploitation, cultural misappropriations, the erasure of Black creatives' ownership of their fashion, art, and media is nothing new. We need transparency, accountability, and bold action to mitigate against misinformation, bias, and exclusion of certain communities from the opportunities present on platforms like TikTok. So let me just say this. I'm concerned about transparency. I am concerned about algorithmic accountability. And I'm not clear that your organization holds those values. So I want to ask that you take a look at this because this is all part and parcel of what we're concerned about with respect to social media platforms and the misappropriation, the ways in which those algorithms can discriminate within the context of the social media platform. With that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Congresswoman, is it okay if I just very quickly respond? This is a very important topic.
Unfortunately, we only have 4.5 hours with you, and I'm going to try to get to every member. So we're going to keep going.
It is very important. I would love to follow up.
There will be other opportunities. The lady yields back. Gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Buddy Carter, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Crew, welcome to the most bipartisan committee in Congress. We may not always agree on how to get there, but we care about our national security. We care about our economy, and we sure as heck care about our children. We sure do. And that's why you're here today, because 2/3 of all the youth in our country are on your app. They spend an average of 95 minutes on your app. And you know, research has shown that TikTok is the most addictive platform out there. And the reason for that, as we've been told, is because it has the most advanced algorithm. And the Chinese Communist Party knows this, and I don't speak for everyone, but there are those on this committee, including myself, who believe that the Chinese Communist Party is engaged in psychological warfare through TikTok to deliberately influence U.S. children. You know, you see behind me, if you look behind me, Mr. Crew, you see some of the challenges that we've seen on TikTok. You know about them. You know about the milk crate. You know about the blackout challenge. You know about the NyQuil chicken challenge, the Benadryl challenge, the Dragon's Breath liquid nitrogen trend, or the challenge that promotes car theft. I want to ask you, as I understand it, there's a sister app in China, Douyin. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation. Do they have these same things over there? Do they have these kind of challenges in China?
Congressman, I'm really glad you asked this question. Yeah.
Do they, yes or no?
I'm not sure because...
Yeah, whoa, come on now. You're not sure?
I really am not sure.
Remember, you took the chair lady, she said, you got to tell the truth, okay? Do you know whether they have these kind of challenges like this over in China? Because it's my understanding they don't.
I'm not sure because I spend my energies running TikTok.
And you don't look at any of your other competitors or look at anything similar to yours. So you don't know whether they don't have this over in China.
I did.
We have it here, but they don't have it here. And that's why I'm asking you this. Why is it that TikTok consistently fails to identify and moderate these kinds of harmful videos? Why is it? Why is it that you allow this to go on? We've already heard, God bless you, from parents who are here with us, who have lost children. I submit to you, everybody up here, cares about the children of this country? Tell me why.
This is a real industry challenge, and we're working
No, it's
very
not
hard.
industry. This is TikTok.
It's
We're
a challenge.
talking about TikTok. We're talking about why is it that you can't control this? And although I believe in giving credit where credit's due, I want to thank you. It's my understanding that the video that threatened life of the chairwoman has been removed. Thank you for doing that. Sorry we had to bring it to your attention here, but it's been removed. Tell me why this goes on.
This is an industry challenge for all of us here operating in this
Okay,
country.
so much for industry challenge. I want to shift gears real quick. I want to talk about biometric matrix, and I want to talk specifically. Can you tell me right now, can you say with 100% certainty that TikTok does not use the phone's camera to determine whether the content that elicits a pupil dilation should be amplified by the algorithm? Can you tell me that?
We do not collect body, face, or voice data to identify our users. We do not. The only
you don't.
No, the only face data that you will get that we collect is when you use the filters to have, say, sunglasses on your face. We need to know where your eyes are. And
Why
that
do you need to know what the eyes are if you're not seeing if they're dilated?
And that data is stored on your local device and deleted after use if you use it for facial. Again, we do not collect body, face, or voice data to identify our users.
I find that hard to believe. It's our understanding that they're looking at the eyes. How do you determine what age they are then?
We rely on age gating as our key age assurance.
Age
gating, which is when you ask the user what age they are. We have also developed some tools where we look at their public profile to go through the videos that they post to see whether...
Well, that's creepy. Tell me more about that.
It's public. So if you post a video, you choose that video to go public, that's how you get people to see your video. We look at those to see if it matches up the age that you talked about. Now, this is a real challenge for our industry because privacy versus age assurance is a really big problem.
Look, you keep talking about the industry. We're talking about TikTok here. We're talking about children dying. Do you know how many children have died because of this? Do you have any idea? Can you tell me?
Congressman, again, it's heartbreaking.
Can you tell me how many children in America have died because of challenges like this?
The majority of people who use our platform use it for positive experiences.
That's not what I ask you. I ask you, tell me the number of children, of U.S. children who have died because of these challenges.
Congressman, again, the majority of people who come on our platform get a good experience.
I'm not talking about the majority of children. I want to know a number.
Dangerous challenges are not allowed on our platform. If we find them, we will remove them. We take this very seriously.
Obviously, you found one today and you removed it. We had to bring it to your attention, and I know I'm out of time. Thank you for being here. Welcome again to the most bipartisan committee in Congress.
Gentleman yields back. We will now take a brief recess and resume in 10 minutes. The committee stands in recess.
Chair recognizes gentleman from California, Mr. Cardenas, for 5 minutes. Cardenas, sorry.
That's good.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I appreciate this opportunity for this committee to have this important hearing regarding TikTok and its effect on the American people, especially the American children, and the potential effect, not potential, but the effects that it has had and may have in the future when it comes to our democracy and misinformation and disinformation that permeates on TikTok. It's unfortunate that I think most Americans or most parents think that TikTok is this innocent little thing where kids get on there and they do a little dance or something like that. But TikTok is much, much more, as some of my colleagues, and I thank them for bringing up some of these serious issues, literally life and death issues that TikTok is right in the middle of. And also, what I'd like the witness to acknowledge is that it appears that Ms. Kamek, my colleague, brought up those two posters, and since then, TikTok has taken them down since then, not before then. Are you aware of that, Mr. Chu?
I was briefed during the break that they are taken down.
Okay. How do you feel about the fact that it was up for apparently 40-some days, 41 days, and yet in the middle of this hearing, it was brought directly to your attention, and as a result, it has been taken down so quickly?
It goes to show the enormous challenge that we have to make sure that although the vast majority of our users come for a good experience, we need to make sure that bad actors don't post violative
Yes,
content.
and the way, Mr. Chu, that you can make sure is that you can make sure that you choose to invest more resources, more money into more ability to pull down damaging and deadly information from your platform. Are you investing more and more and more every day into bringing down that kind of content? That's my question. Are you?
Yes, and I'm committed to investing more in this regard to stay on top of the growth.
Right here in the United States, many, many languages are used and spoken. For example, TikTok in the United States is being used in many languages. Specifically, when it comes to Spanish language, are you dedicating more resources today than you did months ago, years ago, on making sure that you are combing through that content to make sure that if content is dangerous or damaging or deadly, that you are bringing it down as quickly as possible?
Yes, we are investing in more Spanish language content moderation. And yes, we will, once we identify violative content, we'll take it down as soon as possible.
Thank you. And your testimony today isn't the only opportunity for you to commit to answering questions to this committee. So I'd like you to forward to this committee. Again, I'm not asking for trade secrets, but I would like to get some semblance of understanding as to how much you are investing with the number of bodies, the number of people, the number of resources in making sure that you are investing more in pulling down content that is either deadly or dangerous on your platform. Can you forward that to the committee?
I will check with my team and get back to you on this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that opportunity. As was mentioned earlier, it might sound a little funny, but you have, in fact, been one of the few people to unite this committee, members, Republicans and Democrats, to be in agreement that we are frustrated with TikTok. We're upset with TikTok. And yes, you keep mentioning that there are industry issues that not only TikTok faces, but others. You remind me a lot of Mike Zuckerberg. When he came here, I said to my staff, he reminds me of Fred Astaire, good dancer with words. And you are doing the same today. A lot of your answers are a bit nebulous. They're not yes or no. So I'd like to ask you a question. Yes or no? Is your revenue going up at TikTok month over month or year over year?
Yes, our revenue is going up year over year.
And with that, some of the answers I'd like you to forward this committee is, are you investing more and more money into making sure that content that is dangerous and or deadly, you're investing more and more resources in that aspect of your expenditures and your commitment to your users and to your organization?
Yes, I commit to that. And we are investing more and we will continue to do that.
Okay. My last question is this. Are you a Chinese company?
TikTok is a company that's now headquartered in Singapore and Los Angeles.
Okay,
We are not available in mainland China. Our users are in other countries around the world.
okay. Is there a corporation that has any authority above TikTok?
TikTok is a subsidiary of ByteDance, which is founded by a Chinese founder.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And ByteDance is a Chinese company?
Well, ByteDance owns many businesses that operates in China.
Is it or is it not a Chinese company?
Congressman, the way we look at it, it was founded by Chinese
I'm not asking you
entrepreneurs.
how you look at it. Fact, is it a Chinese company or not? For example, Dell is a company, it's an American company. They have activities all over the world. Is it a Chinese company?
I frequently have these discussions with others on what is a company that is now global.
That's okay. I prefer you answer the question and stop dancing verbally on it. Madam Chair, my time has expired. Thank you very much.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Obernolte.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chu. It's nice to see you again. If I could just bring us back up to 30,000 feet for a second, I just want to talk about what we're afraid of here, what we fear might happen. Social media companies, and TikTok is not unique in this, gather a tremendous amount of user data and then use powerful AI tools to use that data to make eerily accurate predictions of human behavior and then seek to manipulate that behavior. And that's something that it's not just TikTok, it's all our social media companies that are doing this. Ultimately, the solution is to enact comprehensive federal data privacy legislation that will prevent that kind of behavior, or at least allow users to consent to it. And that's, I know, something that the chair is working on, the ranking member. I hope that this committee will act on that this year. The specific concern here, though, as regards TikTok, is that this type of capability falling into the hands of foreign countries is something that has national security implications, and that's why Congress is getting involved on this issue. So I know that you have proposed Project Texas in an effort to alleviate these fears. So I wanted to ask some specific technical questions about Project Texas and the way that you believe that it will solve this problem. So one of the things that you've said in your testimony is that part of Project Texas will have engineers at Oracle going through the source code for TikTok. How large is that code base?
Well, it's not small, but it's not just Oracle, Congressman. We are also inviting other third-party monitors. We're in the process of figuring out who the best
Sure. So we're talking millions, tens of millions of lines of code. How big is the base?
It is significant, but it's something that we believe can be done. And again, I want to say that I have not heard of another company, American or not,
No,
that
I
has allowed
understand.
for this to happen.
But I mean, you're kind of in a unique position having to answer these concerns of Congress. So are they going through the code for just the app or the app and the server code?
I can get back to you on the
Okay.
technical details, but it's comprehensive, including the software that powers a lot of the software that powers the experience.
And how long will that review take?
I need to get back to you on the timeline, but we are progressing quite well on Project Texas, and whenever we hit a milestone, I commit to be very transparent about it.
Okay. So I'm wondering, because I'm also concerned as a software engineer about the process in which new code is introduced into the code base. Do you use a software configuration management system at TikTok?
The way we plan for new code to be done is that even before the code becomes live, it has to be reviewed. The changes have to be reviewed
Okay,
by
sure. So
the
you're
third-party
talking about
monitors.
a code review. That was good. That was another question I had for you. So the code review, is it done with a team of engineers or just with a single engineer?
Oh, it's going to be a team effort.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's going to be done at Oracle or elsewhere?
It's going to be done in one of our transparency centers so that we still need to make sure that the code itself is secure. And
Okay.
so yeah.
What I'm hearing you say is that even though the code might be written by someone not in the United States, before the code is integrated, it'll be reviewed in a code review by a team of engineers within the United States?
That's the plan.
Okay. And this, back to the question about the software configuration management system, how do you manage the integration of that code change into the rest of the TikTok code base?
The long and short of it is we have built a team of American personnel with security credentials. The person who leads the team used to work for the Secret Service.
No, I
for
understand,
example.
but I mean, there's a software solution for integrating those code changes into the code base. What solution is that?
I will
use
need
a
to check
commercial
and
one?
get back to you on the
Okay.
details.
Well,
Yeah.
specifically, what I'd like to know is to make sure that this isn't something that TikTok has created custom, which many companies do, because that would mean that you'd have to review the source code for that as well
Yeah.
for security. how do you protect against threats like a malicious actor being hired not by TikTok, but by Oracle, for example, or by USDS?
The approach that most companies take for these things is to have several layers of monitoring to make sure that everything that somebody has reviewed, there's a secondary review, so that one malicious actor is not able to create the damage that the malicious actor can do. But you rightly pointed out, these kind of problems are industry-wide problems.
Right.
Every company has to deal with them.
Okay, well, let me ask a specific question about that. I mean, in thinking about if I were a malicious actor, a software engineer on one of your projects, how I would go about writing a malicious code. I wouldn't put it right there and say, hey, I'm malicious. I would put unrelated lines of code in different sections of the code that work together to do something malicious. How do you think that could get caught?
Again, we have to rely on third-party experts to help us with that. I think there are enough experts who can catch a lot of these things. The work on security globally, on all data security, is never perfect.
Yeah,
but we can have a lot of oversight to keep it safer than any other experience.
I appreciate the effort. My concern, Mr. Chu, is I don't believe that it is technically possible to accomplish what TikTok says it will accomplish through Project Texas. I just think that there are too many back doors through that process to allow that to be possible. And I think a malicious actor would succeed in inserting malicious code in there if they wanted to. But I see we're out of time. I hope we get an opportunity to talk some more about this. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Michigan, Mrs. Dingle. For 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers and Ranking Member Pallone for holding this hearing, and to Mr. Chu for testifying here today. Your good news, you're halfway through with me. As screen time increases, so do inherent risks. And with the proliferation and popularity of new social media platforms, so does the potential reach of dangerous, provocative, and often harmful content. And my fear, the abuse of collected data. As a representative from the state of Michigan, I can speak from experience on how social media has been used to target members of the Michigan delegation, including a plot to kidnap our governor, and how it can be weaponized to perpetuate harms towards individuals and communities. And you saw firsthand how it targeted the chair of this committee. Today, many of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle have raised legitimate concerns about protecting children online, misinformation, and securing our data. Concerns that I share, and has been said by many of my colleagues, are bipartisanly shared. I think in many ways, these myriad of issues highlight the need for comprehensive data privacy legislation that would ensure the safety and integrity of every American's data on every social media platform and mitigate potential harms. One important area of concern I have regarding data collection is geolocation data and how it can be abused. I've seen it abused. I have seen women die because it has been abused. This subject has dangerous implications for survivors of domestic violence, people seeking medical care, and protecting children from potential predators. Mr. Chu, in your testimony, you wrote that current versions of the app do not collect precise or approximate GPS information from US users. Yes or no answers, please. Mr. Chu, have any prior versions of TikTok's app collected precise GPS information from US users? Yes or no?
Yes, from back in 2020, about 3 years ago.
Are there currently TikTok users who still hold old versions of the app that collect precise GPS information from US users? Yes or no?
There could be, but that's a small percentage today.
Still dangerous. Has TikTok at any time fed precise GPS information collected from US users into algorithms to serve user ads? Yes or no?
I will need to check on the details because we do not currently collect that. So I need to check on the details.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a yes there. But has TikTok at any time fed precise GPS information collected from US users into algorithms? I don't know, I'm having talk today, to make inferences about users? Yes or no?
I'm not sure of the specifics.
I'd like answers, yes or no, after this. Has TikTok at any time sold precise GPS information collected from US users? Yes or no?
We do not sell data to data brokers, if that's the question.
And you've never done that.
I do not believe so.
Has TikTok at any time sold or shared with third parties or algorithmic inferences that were made using, in part or in whole, precise GPS information collected from US users? Yes or no?
Congressman, I need to check on these specifics. What I can tell you is right now, we do not collect precise GPS location data in the United States.
All right. Does TikTok still use inferences that were made using, in part or in whole, precise GPS information collected from US users?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
Does TikTok still use inferences that you've gained that were made using, in part or whole, precise GPS information collected from US users in your algorithms?
That will be a very technical question. I will have to check and get back to you.
Has TikTok at any time provided the Chinese government with either precise GSP information collected from US users or inferences made from that data?
That I can give you a straight and no.
Mr. Chu, even if Congress were to ban TikTok, I'm concerned that China or others would still have access to US consumer data by purchasing it through data brokers. Will you commit not to sell any of TikTok's data to data brokers now or in the future?
We do not do that. We do not sell data to data brokers now.
Will you commit to not do it in the future?
There are certain members of our industry who do this. I think this has to be broad legislation to help us, the whole industry, address this problem.
I think I'm out of time. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair yields 5 minutes to the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Palmer.
Thank you. When the Chinese Communist government bought a share of ByteDance, it's been described as the Chinese Communist government's way of quieter form of control, and that companies have little choice in selling a stake to the government if they want to stay in business. And what I'd like to know is when the Chinese Communist government moved to buy shares of ByteDance, were you informed beforehand, yes or no?
No.
Okay.
Congressman ByteDance.
Were you or anyone with TikTok asked for your opinion about the sale of shares of ByteDance to the Chinese Communist government? Yes or no?
It hasn't happened.
Did you or anyone employed by or affiliated with TikTok state any objections or concerns about the possibility of the Chinese Communist government, once they had shares in ByteDance, exercising control over content, using your platform for conducting misinformation campaigns, or restrictions ensuring nothing is posted that reflects badly on the Chinese Communist government, or for surveillance and data collection for use against anyone? Did any of you or anyone affiliated with TikTok raise any concerns about that?
Congressman, we do not collect, we do not promote.
I didn't ask you that.
We do not
Yes or no?
promote.
Did you raise any concerns about it? Because that's why we're here.
But we do not promote or remove
I
any
didn't
content
ask
at the
you that.
behalf of the Chinese government.
Did you communicate in any form or fashion with the directors of ByteDance that there might be concerns about government control over content? Yes or no? You either did or you didn't?
Congressman,
You didn't.
I just want to make this clear. We
Let me
do
ask
not
you
remove
this.
or promote content at the request of the Chinese
TikTok
government.
insiders have already said that the company is tightly controlled by ByteDance. It even gets down to the hours they work. So obviously, you didn't say anything. There's a serious concern by Chinese companies, privately held companies, about doing anything against what the Chinese Communist government wants. I want to ask you this. Does TikTok screen against manipulative content from child predators, yes or no?
Do we screen?
Do you
against-
screen against them?
Yeah, we do. This
How about
child
drug,
predator.
how about drug cartels? Do
drug
you-
cartels, child predatory content.
You,
This is
you
all
had a
violated.
drug cartel that was engaged in a police chase with Spanish authorities, and they posted it on TikTok and got over 1 million views. Why wasn't that taken down? And are you doing it with human traffickers or terrorists? I mean, do you withhold content from nations that might be committing crimes against humanity? Yes or no?
Congressman, our platform is a
Yes
place
or
of
no?
freedom of
Yes or
expression,
no?
and users
I know
come here
you talk about that, but yes or no, do you screen against content from nations that commit crimes against humanity?
Congressman, our users come and
Yes or
express.
no?
Our
Yes or
users
no?
come and present
you-
any points of views
you
that
don't.
they want, and it's a commitment to keep this
Let me
free
ask
from
you this,
interference
Michael
from any
Beckerman,
government.
who is your vice president and head of public policy for the Americas, right? Is he part of the team that helped you prepare for this meeting, yes or no?
Can I clarify who you mean?
Michael Beckerman.
Yes, he is.
Okay, where is he at this moment?
I'm sorry?
Where's Mr. Beckerman at this moment?
He's probably here.
No, you know he's here. He's sitting right behind you. I want to know why, when Mr. Beckerman was on with Jake Tapper on CNN and asked repeatedly to condemn Chinese Communist government's treatment of the Uyghurs, when that treatment has been classified by the United States as a genocide, when a UN report classifies it as a crime against humanity, why, after multiple questions, Mr. Beckerman refused to address that? Are you afraid of the Chinese Communist government?
No, because
you
you can find that
concerned
content
that-
on our platform. Any content that our users want
Well,
to
why couldn't
express
your
their
vice
views on this
president of
issue is
public
freely
policy,
available on
the
our
guy
platform.
who's head of public policy for the Americas, and an American, on an American television news channel, why couldn't he condemn that?
I think it's very important to look at our platform, and if you use and open our app
I'm not
and
talking about
search
your
for any
platform. I'm asking
content,
about your personnel now, because personnel is policy. Everybody in this room understands that, except maybe you. Personnel is let me just conclude with this. And I hate to bring this up because this is part of the stuff that I've studied, but deception is fundamental to the Chinese Communist Party's political, intelligence, and military strategy. And you have repeatedly used the word transparency throughout this hearing. And every time you've said it, what I've heard is deception. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes gentleman from Texas, Mr. Vesey, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I got to tell you, Mr. Chu, as a father of a 16-year-old that likes social media, a lot of your evasiveness today in answering many of these questions really disturbs me, because I can tell you that the teenagers of today, they really don't want to be on Facebook. They want your platform, and you were asked to come before this committee to testify about many things, and a lot of us are worried about our kids' personal data. As the co-chair of the Congressional Voting Rights Caucus, I also worry that TikTok is the world's most powerful and extensive propaganda machine, allowing the Chinese Communist Party to use TikTok's platform to influence public opinion and undermine the integrity of our democratic elections. And I have a report called "TikTok and Facebook Failed to Detect Election Disinformation in the U.S. While YouTube Succeeds." And this report was published by the nonprofit Global Witness and the Cybersecurity for Democracy team at NYU. And the purpose of the study was to test platforms like TikTok and whether or not they can detect and take down false political ads targeted at U.S. voters, young voters, ahead of last year's midterm elections. And according to this report, 90% of election disinformation ads tested were approved by your platform. Again, that is 90% of ads containing false and misleading election misinformation went undetected on TikTok. And just to add some color to the type of misleading ads that were approved by TikTok, this included ads that were live on TikTok that said the wrong election day and actually encouraged people to vote twice. You do know that voting twice is a felony, Mr. Chu. You do know that it's legal to vote twice.
Congressman, any misinformation that comes around a political election is something we take very seriously.
Let me, I'm particularly troubled about this type of information because it can run rampant on TikTok. And given that TikTok, again, y'all are appealing to a very young and diverse user base, that is exactly the people that we've seen targeted time and time again with voter suppression campaigns run by malicious actors. Mr. Chu, do you agree with me that it is completely unacceptable that 90% of these ads were undetected on your platform, And can you detail for us right now TikTok's policy regarding election misinformation and paid political ads, and how the company monitors such information, and how you plan to get that number down to 0?
Whilst TikTok is a place for our users to come and express their points of views freely, we do take misinformation, dangerous misinformation, particularly around an election, very seriously. And we will work with third-party experts to identify misinformation.
You
and
call
actively-
allowing 90% of false content, political content on your platform to be you define that as being taken seriously?
I need to look into the specifics. I'm not sure where the number came from, but I can tell you, Congressman, that we are the only platform that I know of that doesn't actually take political ads. We don't
Mr.
accept money. I don't think other platforms can say that.
Mr. Chu, can you detail how you responded to that report? Did you respond to that report that I just mentioned?
I need to look at the specifics of the report, Congressman, and I can get back to you on that.
All right. Mr. Chu, I want to shift to Project Texas. I know that we've discussed this initiative throughout today's hearing, but I want to dive deeper into your notion that promises about Project Texas should give us any confidence in TikTok's ability to localize U.S. data and discontinue access to that data to ByteDance employees in China. Why? Because we've already had a TikTok executive appear before Congress and give sworn testimony about the comfort that we should take in TikTok's US-based resources. Well, TikTok data security practices were being scrutinized by the US government, and unfortunately, we've since found out from journalists and recorded conversations that those assurances were worthless. In your testimony, you also mentioned that Oracle has already begun inspecting TikTok's source code and has access to the platform's recommendation algorithm. Why should this give the American public any great assurances, particularly given that Oracle now owns a stake in TikTok and stands to gain monetarily the more revenue that TikTok and its algorithm generates?
Congressman, not only is Project Texas unprecedented in our industry in protecting US user data and interests, we are inviting third parties to come in and monitor this, and we will be transparent in that process. And this is more beyond all companies that I know of in my industry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm out of time.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida for 5 minutes, Mr. Dunn.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, I'm aware that on arriving in DC this week, you appeared on TikTok and posted you had 150 million US users, 5 million US businesses. That represents a lot of data. You also referenced your appearance before this committee as a chance to share all that TikTok is doing to protect Americans using the app. Mr. Chu, has ByteDance spied on Americans at the direction of the Chinese Communist Party?
No.
Madam Chair, I'd like to enter into the record this October 20th, 22 Forbes article entitled TikTok Parent ByteDance Plan to Use TikTok to Monitor the Physical Location of Specific U.S. Citizens.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. The project assigned this to a Beijing-led team, and they were going to follow individual American citizens. I ask you again, Mr. Chu, has ByteDance spied on American citizens?
I don't think the spying is the right way to describe it.
All right.
This is ultimately
We can differ on
this
that.
is
I'll
this is
reclaim my
ultimately
time.
an internal
Any
investigation.
TikTok or ByteDance data that is viewed, stored, or passes through China is subject to the laws of China, one-party authoritarian state hostile to all American standards of privacy. China's court system reports to and falls under the Chinese Communist Party. And like fentanyl analogs, which we all know are also manufactured in China, although they are illegal there, I fear TikTok will grow into a much bigger problem, a cancer, if you will. And I'm deeply worried that it may be too late to stop the spread of this cancer. Like fentanyl, another China export, which causes addiction and death, dangerous algorithms and Chinese Communist Party are not good for Americans, not good for our families, and definitely not good for the United States. Mr. Chu, prior to serving as the CFO of ByteDance, you served as a CFO and Director Global Operations for ShowMe from 2015 to 21. Is that correct?
Are you asking me in 2015?
Very good.
Would you mind repeating that, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to enter another article into evidence. This is from the National Cybersecurity Center in Lithuania.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. This report outlines numerous data security risks, including how the privacy of European users was violated in clear cases of unauthorized collection of user data by Xiaomi. This sounds exactly what many of my colleagues have been talking about today. Worse yet, the Xiaomi phones sold to Europeans had a list of 449 words and phrases which would be automatically censored on the device. Censored phrases included the Voice of America and Democratic Movement, among others. This analysis was conducted on devices which are manufactured and sold to Europeans while you were the head of operations for Xiaomi. It does not follow that you expect us to believe that you would not censor on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, since you've already done so.
I want to be unequivocal on this. We do not remove
I
or
reclaim my
promote
time.
content on
While
behalf of the Chinese
TikTok, in
government.
your words, strives to deliver on their mission to inspire creativity and bring joy to American users, I assure you that is not the mission or goal of the Chinese Communist Party, which runs the People's Republic of China, that TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is domiciled in. Mr.
Congressman,
Xi,
you can
these are
check with our
straightforward
users to
things.
see
The
the
world
experience that they're
deserves an
getting.
answer. You have not given straightforward answers. We don't find you credible on these things. With that, Madam Chair, I'd like to yield the balance. of my
Congressman, you have
time
given me
to
no
Mr.
time to
Obernolte
answer your
of
questions.
California.
I reject the characterizations.
I yield it
Who
to
are you
Mr.
yielding
Obernolte.
to, Dr. Dunn? Mr. Obernolte? Okay.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, I'd like to continue our discussion of Project Texas, if we could. Part of Project Texas is that engineers at Oracle will review the algorithms used by TikTok to confirm that they're free of foreign influence. I have a question about that because we're talking about AI, that's a very generic term. Do you use machine learning to influence the algorithms at TikTok?
This gets very technical, and we have published several blogs about this, which I can forward to your team.
Okay.
But yes, it's mainly based on interest signals.
Right. Okay.
Like,
So,
yeah.
so here's my question. How could looking at the algorithm confirm that it's free from foreign influence? Because the algorithm is just a neural net architecture with inputs and outputs and weights, and how to train that. I mean, the influence is an external factor. So I'd appreciate it if you could give us, I see we're out of time again, a written answer to that. But again, I'm concerned that what you're proposing with Project Texas just doesn't have the technical capability of providing us the assurances that we need. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Ms. Custer. Ms. Custer is not here. Ms. Barragon for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, TikTok warns users when content is graphic or disturbing and labels state-affiliated media accounts to ensure the viewers aren't seeing propaganda. Does TikTok provide similar information to Spanish speakers, users, as well as English speakers?
I believe so, Congressman. I will get back to you on that.
Okay, and do you know if TikTok has a specific strategy for tackling Spanish language content that violates its trust and safety guidelines?
We do. I will get back to you on the specifics on that.
Okay. When offensive English language search terms or hashtags are blocked for violating community guidelines in English, is the Spanish translation of the term or the hashtag automatically blocked as well?
I believe so, but let me check the specifics and get back to you.
Do you have any idea how many people that you might have working at TikTok that addresses Spanish misinformation?
I know ballpark, it's quite a significant team, but I can get back to you on the details.
You said significant, so are you saying it's, do you have a ballpark at all you can give us? Would you say it's like 10% of your force or more
It's
than?
an important number, so I want to be precise, and I'll get back to you.
Okay. Do you happen to know how if a TikTok can effectively ensure that Spanish-speaking users between the ages of 13 and 17 are not being targeted by ads promoting harmful content?
We have very strict policies for our users who are in the teenage age group, and regardless of what language they speak. So we want to make sure that they are given a very safe experience on our platform, regardless of the language they.
Well, I know, I'm
use
just
it.
trying to I'm trying to ascertain resources you may be putting into Spanish speaking and Spanish language. Last year, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus met with TikTok. This was one of the conversations, and a source of the discussion was addressing Spanish language disinformation and misinformation. It remains an urgent priority for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus as Hispanics across the country increasingly turn to social media for vital information. We heard earlier in this hearing that there was, video, there was a TikTok post threatening the chair of the committee, and it took some 40 days to take it down. So I guess I'm a little concerned if your team doesn't have the resources and the capability to flag that, what kind of capability is it going to have to bring down misinformation, disinformation to Spanish speakers, which I'm assuming is a smaller fraction of the workers that you have at TikTok?
TikTok is a place for all our users to come and express their very diverse views, and we are open to all ethnicities, and we are open to all everyone to come here and freely express their views. So it is our commitment to make sure that the safety of those users, regardless of the language, and of course, the Spanish language user base is super important to us.
Okay,
We
so
need to
you
make sure
can't-
that we continue to
Okay,
invest
so
in
you
that.
don't have an answer then. Okay, I will look forward in your coming back. We've heard a lot about the concerns about children who may be on TikTok. Mr. Chu, at what age do you think it would be appropriate for a young person to get on TikTok?
We have 3 different experiences here in the United States. There is an experience for under 13s, which is highly restricted.
I'm asking what you think would be the appropriate age to have a child get on TikTok.
Our approach is to give differentiated experiences for different age groups and let the parents have these conversations with their children to decide what's best for their family.
So you think that there is a sufficient safety mechanism for an 8-year-old to be able to access TikTok?
An 8-year-old's experience on TikTok will be so highly restricted that every single piece of content he or she will see will be vetted by Common Sense, our third-party child safety expert, and the 8-year-old will not be able to post, and the 8-year-old will not be able to see any personalized feed and 0 advertising in that experience. So I believe, yes, it is the appropriate experience for an 8-year-old.
Well, then why don't you let your 8-year-old child on TikTok?
I have seen these news articles. I would like to address that. My kids live in Singapore, and in Singapore, we do not have the under 13 experience. If they lived here in the United States, I'll let them use the under 13 experience.
Okay, so you're saying it's because of the country you live in doesn't have the same mechanisms. Is there a reason you don't have those same mechanisms everywhere?
In principle, we want to provide a good experience for our users in general. We don't want to monetize from people who are under 13. In the US, we are COPPA compliant, and as part of that, we were deemed as I want to get this specifics right. We were deemed as a particular type of audience, mixed audience app. I want to make sure that that's right. And as a result of that, we have to provide an experience to our under 13 users in this country as well.
My time has expired. Thank you. I yield back.
He yields back. Chair recognizes gentleman from Utah, Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, my children are getting ready to run a marathon, and I noted during this hearing that they'll be running for about the same amount of time that you'll be sitting in that chair today. Unfortunately, I only get you for 5 minutes, so instead of a marathon, I'd like to do a sprint with you. And I want to go back up to that 30,000 feet level. Would you agree with me that Section 230 was created to protect platforms like yours from lawsuits when you distribute information? Don't overcomplicate it, just like 30,000 feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then would you agree that there's a line drawn between publishers of information and distributors of information? Specifically in the Section 230 language.
I think 230 is a very complex topic.
I understand, but remember, we're at 30,000 feet. So in short, your platform distributes content that other people's publish. One of the early challengers to Section 230 was when AOL refused to take down a post of somebody that had inappropriately put associated a phone number with the Oklahoma City bombings. The courts ruled that AOL was not liable for that post because of Section 230. Now, I want you to do a hypothetical with me because I'm going to use the absurd to try to make a point here. Let's suppose hypothetically that AOL instead of just posting that, actually wanted to magnify that voice. And so they took out an ad in the Wall Street Journal linking that phone number with the Oklahoma City bombing. And let's suppose they didn't stop there, but they went further and they took out a Super Bowl ad linking that phone number with the Oklahoma City bombing. And let's suppose hypothetically they didn't stop there. They sent a flyer to every home in America linking that phone number to the bombing. And I guess the question is, would AOL have moved from a distributor to a publisher in this made-up example?
Congressman,
I think
respectfully,
I think everybody can see that they would. This is not a hard question.
question.
Moving that far away from the intent would have moved them to a publisher. So my question is platforms are protected because they post content, but I want this room to see, not just you, the protection has limits. And if AOL moves to a distributor instead of a publisher, they go outside of those limits. Now let's talk algorithms just super quickly. We've thrown that word around a lot today. Let me here again go 30,000 feet, and we'll use another platform so it's not sensitive. But Pinterest, I like to go on Pinterest. My wife and I are building a home, working on the yard right now. If you went on my Pinterest page, you would see swing sets and things made for my grandkids. Now, another hypothetical, let's suppose that there's some devious intent inside Pinterest, and they decide they want to influence John Curtis with these algorithms, and they want me to believe it's the end of the world. And all of a sudden now I'm buying bomb shelters instead of swing sets for my kids. Have they become a publisher and should not be protected from Section 230? And if you don't feel, I'm pretty sure the room understands that they have crossed this line, and you can tell me if you think they have or not.
Congressman, I will have to study that specific example and get back to you.
It's a hypothetical, but you can see at some point they've crossed the line and they have become a publisher and a distributor. So we've touched on this today, but I want to be super specific. Is it possible that TikTok had enough data, could get enough data on me that you could use artificial intelligence and your algorithms and machine learning to write an algorithm that could persuade me to change how I view a policy issue? Does that possibility exist?
The way we look at it,
30,000 feet, we're on a sprint.
I will stay very high level.
Okay,
the way
yes.
we look at it is our users come in and express whatever views they
But
want.
that's not the point. The point is you could write an algorithm that would change. And we've actually seen, the Washington Post reported the Stop the Willow campaign shows how TikTokers are tackling climate change. I think that's all fine, right, and all good, unless somebody has interjected into that and magnified or diminished voices in that. And what I'm proposing to you today is that pushes them across the line from a distributor to a publisher if they make those decisions. Now, serious allegations have been made against your platform and others, many of them here today, and you're not new to these allegations. This isn't your platform, but some time ago there was an allegation that a platform recommended ISIS-related videos. We've talked about the weight loss videos. We didn't talk about it, but they're still in the elections. Whatever the motivation, I'm trying to point out that as you move from a publisher, as you manipulate this data with algorithms, that you step out from the protections of Section 230. Do you see that logic?
This is a very complex
I understand it's very
argument.
complex, but
Yeah.
you see the logic. In your mind, has TikTok ever stepped across the line from a distributor to a publisher?
Congressman, again, this is a very complex topic. I will need to get back to you
I
on the
understand
specifics.
that. Okay, and finally, you very quickly, you produced a video that now is well known about your visit here and today in Washington, D.C. Can you tell me 100% that no TikTok employees manually manipulated that to get more views?
I checked, and as far as I know, there was no boosting and heating. I went viral organically.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'm sorry I'm out of time. I yield my time.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Ms. Blunt Rochester. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, as I'm sure you know, this hearing is part of an ongoing effort by our committee to examine data security and other concerns with social media companies broadly. And I have to tell you, I came to this hearing interested to hear the actions that TikTok is taking to combat misinformation, protect our young people, and ensure our national security. But I've not been reassured by anything you've said so far. And I think, quite frankly, your testimony has raised more questions for me than answers. As some of my colleagues already noted, platforms like TikTok can easily manipulate and undermine user autonomy with addictive features, invasive data collection practices, and disseminating misinformation and disinformation. That's why I will be reintroducing the Detour Act to mitigate this harm. Mr. Chu, yes or no, would you oppose legislation that banned the use of intentionally manipulative design techniques that trick users into giving up their personal information?
In principle,
It's just a yes or no.
in principle, I agree that that kind of practices is not.
And can
great.
TikTok users opt out of targeted ads? Yes or no?
At this moment in time, we believe that this is a very important part of the experience.
Yes or no? Time is ticking.
It is an important part of the experience.
Even if someone wants targeted ads, do you give a user a clear opportunity to prevent TikTok from using tools like pixels to collect their data and track them off of the TikTok platform?
We give our users a lot of tools to control their privacy settings on our app. And by the way, if you're below 16, it's private by default. So you cannot even go viral.
In August of 2022, response to a letter I wrote to your company on abortion misinformation, TikTok asserted several actions to address abortion misinformation. In light of recent attacks on safe and effective medication abortion, I'm remained worried by this misinformation. And following on Ms. DeGette's questioning, how many posts did you actually take down that contained abortion misinformation?
Contents and views on both sides of the on abortion is allowed on our platform. It's just freedom of expression. If it's dangerous misinformation, we rely on third-party experts to help us identify and remove them. I can get back to you on specifics.
Yes, please get back
numbers.
with us
Yeah.
on the specifics. Mr. Chu, in your testimony, you indicated TikTok has taken several steps to implement Project Texas. You've said you've spent, in your testimony, $1.5 billion. You've hired 1,500 full-time employees. Can I ask for some specifics about the implementation? This $1.5 billion, what was it used for? The employees, were they people that you already had that you just transferred over? And what types of roles will they have?
Oh, okay. This $1.5 billion US is spread across many things, including the infrastructure we have to build, the migration of the data to a new cloud infrastructure, and all the third-party security partners that we're hiring, and of course the new employees. Now, this team will now be run by a gentleman who used to be this, who has spent his career as a chief security officer in other companies, and another gentleman who used to work, I believe, in
If you could
one of
just
the
follow
national-
up
yeah.
with us, that would be very helpful.
I will.
Because we would really like to understand the details. Where's the money going? How many people and what will they be doing?
Okay.
As I put just kind of a finer point on this, one of my concerns is that we came here hoping to hear some actions that would alleviate some of our concerns and our fears. We got family members. We have a lot of folks here that are constituents, that are content creators. And for us, we were looking for action. We wanted to make us feel like we really can trust, as you use the word. What I leave here with is thinking about the fact that your company is, I learned that you have personalized data advertising for kids as young as 13. And we've heard until Project Texas is supposedly stood up, engineers in China still have access to personal data. And that means engineers in China have access to personal data of 13-year-olds in the United States. And I think that really summarizes why you see so much bipartisan consensus and concern about your company. And I imagine that it's not going away anytime soon. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Yield to the lady from Arizona, Ms. Lesko, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, do you agree that the Chinese government has persecuted the Uyghur population?
Congresswoman, if you use our app and you open it, you will find our users who give all sorts of
That's not
content.
my
on that stuff.
question. My question is, do you agree that the Chinese government has persecuted the Uyghur population?
While it's deeply concerning to hear about all accounts of human rights abuse, my role here is to
I
explain
think
what
you're
our
being
platform
pretty
does on this.
evasive. It's a pretty easy question. Do you agree that the Chinese government has persecuted the Uyghur population?
Congresswoman, I'm here to describe TikTok and what we do as a platform. And as a
All right.
platform, we allow our users to freely express
All
their
right.
views on this issue
Earlier
and any other issue
today-
that matters to them.
Well, you didn't answer the question. Earlier today, Chairman Rogers asked you, and I quote, "Have any moderation tools been used to remove content associated with the Uyghur genocide, yes or no?" Your answer, "We do not remove that kind of content." Yet, in 2019, TikTok suspended the account of Feroza Aziz, an American 17-year-old, after she put out a video about the Uyghur genocide. So your answer, sir, does not align with history.
That particular case was a mismoderation. I believe that video had a picture of Osama bin Laden. So we
No,
thought it was content
No,
that was inappropriate.
Yeah, I looked it up. That was a different post that they banned.
I can
TikTok
get back on the
banned.
specifics, yes.
My next question. India banned the use of TikTok in their country in 2020. New Zealand has banned the installation of TikTok on devices connected to the country's parliamentary network. Canada banned the installation of TikTok on government devices. The United Kingdom has banned the TikTok app from government-owned devices. Belgium banned the TikTok from government phones. The European Union banned the installation of TikTok on government devices. All cited security risks with the company's data collection and connection to the Chinese Communist Party. Recently, our US FBI Director, Christopher Wray, said about TikTok, quote, "This is a tool that is ultimately within the control of the Chinese government, and to me, it screams out with national security concerns." Mr. Chu, how can all of these countries and our own FBI director have been wrong?
I think a lot of risks that are pointed out are hypothetical and theoretical risks. I have not seen any evidence. I'm, eagerly awaiting discussions where we can talk about evidence, and we then can address the concerns that are being raised.
Yes, my next question revolves around an article. India banned TikTok in 2020. A March 21st Forbes article revealed how troves of personal data of Indian citizens who once used TikTok remain widely accessible to employees at the company and its Beijing-based parent ByteDance. A current TikTok employee told Forbes that nearly anyone with basic access to company tools, including employees in China, can easily look up the closest contacts and other sensitive information about any user. This current TikTok employee also said, quote, "If you want to start a movement, if you want to divide people, if you want to do any of the operation to influence the public on the app, you can just use that information to target those groups." Why would Mr. Chu, why would a current TikTok employee say this if it wasn't true?
This is a recent article. I have asked my team to look into it. As far as I know, we have rigorous data access protocols. There's really no such thing where anybody can get access to tools.
All right.
So I disagree with a lot of the conclusions of that.
Madam Chair, I request unanimous consent that the Forbes March 21st, 2023 article be added to the record.
Without
And I would like to turn over the rest of my time to Mr. Abernoldi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, I'd like to continue asking the question that we ran out of time last time. So as part of Project Texas, you're going to have engineers at Oracle review the algorithms, the machine learning algorithms that TikTok uses to ensure that they're free from foreign influence. But as you and I were discussing, reviewing the algorithms doesn't do anything. The algorithms were simple. That's not where the secret sauce is. The secret sauce is in the data used to train them and the outcomes that you're asking them to predict. Would you agree with that?
No, I actually believe that with third-party monitoring, you can identify a lot of the motivation of the code. And with enough third-party expert, you can identify a lot of what the code is designed to do.
But how would you verify that you couldn't ask the algorithm for a different outcome than the one that the rest of the source code is asking for?
The algorithm will be trained with this, again, it's very technical, but it will be trained based on weights, for example. And those are things that we can verify. What
Okay.
weights are you
Well,
putting on
If
likes?
you could
and
give us a
comments?
written response to that, I'd appreciate it because I'm interested. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield back.
Lady yields back, gentleman, gentle lady yields back. Chair recognizes For 5 minutes, gentleman from Florida, Mr. Soto.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The genie's really out of the bottle on this now, so to speak. 150 million Americans are now on TikTok. That's almost half of America. They're expressing themselves in art and music, poetry, short film, comedy, among other creative expressions, and many of them are inspiring, talented young people. But we also on the committee recognize there's a darker side to it, right? Violence, adult themes, drug and alcohol, sexualization, suicide, all major issues on TikTok, but also Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and other social media platforms. So the solution, as I see it, is to regulate TikTok and other social media platforms. And that job, Mr. Chu, as you know, really falls to us. There are real concerns, bipartisan common ground we've already had. We had a federal device ban that was voted on bipartisan in the omnibus. And I co-introduced a bill with my dear friend, Representative Kamek, about notices of that federal ban. Madam Chair, I think the first key is privacy. We have to pass the comprehensive legislation that got out of this community but eluded us in the last Congress. I'm really hoping we can get that done, and I'm really excited about hearing that from folks. The other thing is that TikTok needs to be an American company with American values and end its ties to the Chinese Communist Party. This is something that'll be critical as we look and go forward. And then 3, we all agree we have to protect our kids. The committee should consider banning the use for children under 13 of not just TikTok, but all social media platforms, or at least empower parents. In addition, have rules of the road for teens that are 13 to 17 so that families can do what's right for their families. So for privacy, that's on us. Internet privacy is on us. As far as being an American company, Mr. Chu, as you know, the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States at the Department of Treasury reviews foreign investment that affects national security. Right now, they've negotiated with your company about this Oracle setup that you've talked about, servers in an American company in America, in Texas, and then Oracle would monitor the algorithms. But pressure is mounting. So, Mr. Chu, would TikTok be prepared to divest from ByteDance and Chinese Communist Party ties if the Department of Treasury instructed you all to do so?
Congressman, I said in my opening statement, I think we need to address the problem of privacy. I agree with you. I don't think ownership is the issue here. With a lot of respect, American social companies don't have a good track record with data privacy and user security. I mean, look at Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, just one example. So I do think that, it is not about the ownership. It is a lot about making sure we have Project Texas, making sure that we're protecting and firewalling US user data from unwanted foreign access, giving third parties to come in to have a look at this, and making sure that everybody is comfortable. We're giving transparency and third-party monitoring, and that's what we're doing for Project Texas.
Well, I would at least encourage you all to start having the dialogue, should that be where the president and the Congress ends up going. The third thing is on parents. I had a constituent of mine, Brandy of Lake Nona, say, I'm a parent of 2 teenagers, 14 and 18 years old, both of whom have been harmed by social media. TikTok's algorithms supply my 14-year-old son with a continuous stream of inappropriate content and has negatively influenced his perception of all females. I noticed the attention span of both of my teens has changed or decreased dramatically. And social media has made my daughter insecure, leading to an eating disorder and ultimately depression. What safeguards do you have, and what should we tell Brandy of Lake Nona about how we can help her protect her children?
We have a differentiated experience. I mentioned just now about the experience if you're below 13, very, very restricted. If you're below 13 to 17, Congressman, we actually have a whole series of things. First, the content that you see, we make sure that we remove things that could be mature themes from your feed. We also, by default, do not allow under 16s to use direct messaging. We do not allow under 16s to, we set their accounts to private by default. They can go viral. If you're below 18, we shut off some features for you. Like, for example, you're not allowed to post live streams. Neither are you allowed to send virtual gifts. So we take this very seriously, and we want to continue to build to ensure that we're giving our under 18 teenagers on our platform. Although today they are only a minority of our user base today, but we still take it very seriously.
Mr. Chu, I'd encourage you to continue thinking about how to get the word out to parents across the nation on some of these tools, as well as we here craft a privacy law that will help provide well-needed regulation to social media companies across the nation. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Pence, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman Rogers and Ranking Member Pallone, for holding this hearing. I love both of your opening remarks. Like my colleagues have discussed today, our increasingly digital world leaves Hoosiers and all Americans in the dark about who has access to their information. For TikTok users, that could be third-party data brokers, advertisers, or the Chinese Communist Party. TikTok aggressively feeds addictive content to users to glean massive amounts of personal data that's worth a fortune. For Hoosiers watching at home, this isn't just data about your favorite sports team. You know, if there really are 150 million users in the US, this suggests to me that the CCP has a finger on the pulse of almost half our nation's population. I find that hard to believe. But this week, I decided I would ask my constituents in Southern Indiana to share their stories with me. Went out Monday night, and we got 800 responses in less than 12 hours, okay? Let me share a couple of those with you. One of my constituents shared, I quote, "I'm a mental health counselor. Most of my teenage clients are on TikTok. They spend hours online being negatively influenced by others. I've seen kids experience self-harm, gender dysphoria, and many mental illnesses they have picked up from TikTok. I will not allow my children to have TikTok. The creators know the algorithms are addicting our children. They know that children are suffering more anxiety and depression from screen time, but they do not care. They will not change their algorithms because it's financially lucrative for them to keep their kids addicted." Another parent said, "We let our daughter try it out. The feed was continuously suggesting sexually explicit, stupid, and vulgar videos. We discontinued it within a week." And there's been many more. Like I said, 800, okay? In your testimony, Mr. Chu, you walked through a number of supposed actions taken by your company to create a safe environment, empower parents to oversee content shown to their children. But virtually everything we've heard reflects the opposite, and some of your answers are a little confusing. You know, all of those sitting here and maybe watching on C-SPAN, this is the 32nd hearing we have held about privacy and big tech. Each hearing I've been part of, we've heard the same stories about our constituents' experience and the same promises for big tech to do better. The truth of the matter is this disgusting and dangerous content littered across your platform is not justifiable, and it's uncontrollable. Americans' data is not safe, and big tech is doing nothing to protect it. Putting aside the dangers of the CCP involvement, and after these 32 hearings, I believe it's actually time to change the narrative, change the focus, and change the outcome by talking about the money you're making at TikTok. Mr. Chu, I have a question. How much revenue is generated per user?
Congressman,
Private company, and you're
private
not going to
company,
tell me.
yes.
Does each user receive a comparable benefit for the amount of profit their data brings to your company?
We do share some revenue with some creators who produce, say, 1 minute plus informative
Thanks.
content.
When am I going to get paid for the data that you are selling, or you're getting revenue from advertisers? When am I going to get paid for the data you're getting from my children, my grandchildren, my neighbors? I think that's the only way to get your attention, is talk about the money you're making, and maybe that'll get you all to do what you're supposed to do.
I respect and understand your opinion. The vast majority of our users have a great experience. I sent a video recently as well. I got hundreds of thousands of comments.
But what am I
We had
getting? It's a great experience. What about these 800 bad experiences that people in the Indiana 6th District have been getting?
We will look into them, and a lot
You're
of
going to look into it, but this is a 30-second big tech hearing, and you're always going to look at it. Frankly, I think you're all stalling is what you're doing. You're just trying to buy time while you're making the 18 billion, perhaps, whatever you're making.
The majority of our users have a great experience on our platform. It is our duty to keep it safe. I agree with you. That's why our commitment is to make sure that safety
I think
is a
it's
priority for
I
us.
think it's your duty to pay attention to what you're doing, and maybe you paying people for the information that you're getting from her is a way to get that done. Thank you. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes gentlelady from Washington, Ms. Schreier, for 5 minutes.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Chu. I'm really concerned about everything that we are hearing in this conversation today, and I appreciate your good intentions, but the actions are really falling short. As a pediatrician and the parent of a teenager, I'm particularly concerned about how social media generally, and TikTok specifically, is affecting our kids and teens. We just heard a lot about this from testimony from a psychologist. Last year, the American Academy of Pediatrics sounded the alarm about our children's mental health crisis. And as a pediatrician, I know this has been going on for more than a decade. In fact, it tracks perfectly with social media engagement. And during the pandemic, teens who are missing out on in-person interactions turned even more to social media to connect with friends. Social media is designed to be addicting. That's the business model. And your platform is the most addictive of all. And this endless, mindless scrolling takes teens away from human relationships. And here's what's important. It keeps teens awake all night, well past their bedtime, at a time in their lives when sleep is critical for brain and physical development. In fact, sleep deprivation alone, ignoring even content alone, can cause depression, anxiety, social withdrawal, inattention, poor coping skills, and academic failure. So Mr. Chu, I just want to follow up a little bit on what my colleague, Mr. Sarbanes, was discussing. It is your business model to keep eyes on the app, to keep it addictive. I know you likely have experts who have advised you on how to design this to keep those eyes on your platform for the longest possible time. So I want to know if you have psychologists or other health experts on staff looking at screen time, hours of use, and sleep.
We worked with the Digital Wellness Lab, Congresswoman, and at the Boston Children's Hospital, and we came up with a 60-minute default limit for any users under 18. We were the first to do it in our industry.
That is an opt-out. And I can tell you, they're going to immediately opt out. It is addictive. It's
We also give
asking
tools.
a chain smoker not to take the next cigarette. It is not going to happen. And by the way, first I have a question, then I'll go back to Boston Children's. Mr. Sarbanes asked earlier, what is the percentage of teens who actually adhere to the 60-minute limit?
I would need to check on those numbers and get back to you on specifics.
I'd appreciate those numbers.
Yes.
I'm guessing it is an incredibly low percentage who actually heed that. Now, as far as Boston Children's goes, I know you're referring to them as a source for these ideas about go outside, get some air, take some time out. But I can tell you as a pediatrician, I'm guessing their suggestions were a little stronger than that. And so I'm wondering what is the next step? What are you doing when you find out that almost nobody is really opting out after 60 minutes to take this burden off of the kids and off of the parents and change your algorithms to make them not so hooked?
We give our parents, as you pointed out, the family pairing tool. And in that tool, if you pair it with your teenager's phone, you can actually set a restriction, how many minutes. And we believe it's very important for parents to have these conversations with their teenagers so to decide what's best for their family. I also, Congresswoman, a lot of people come to our platform to have a really informative experience. Like I said, there were 116 billion pieces of content on STEM. And we're creating a feed dedicated to that. Book Talk has 115 billion.
We've also heard today that well over 20% of the information is misinformation. We heard that about medical remedies that are not really remedies. We've heard it about mental health topics. I mean, this becomes very dangerous, especially when people who are not trained to think very critically are being given information and thinking that it's true. And you've said many times that the destructive information isn't available to kids, but it is. Like, we keep seeing examples here. And so I'm just wondering, what are you going to do with the algorithms? I mean, just because you're removing something that says anorexia, bulimia, or eating disorder, that doesn't do it. If you show girls repeatedly skinny bodies and advice on how to cook meals that are less than 300 calories, That's dangerous.
We have worked with, first of all, anything that glorifies eating disorders, we remove that from our platform. It's violative. We're working with experts now. It's a challenging problem for our industry, but we're actually identifying some of these themes that you're talking about and trying to build models where that kind of content is not chained up for the younger users. So it's something we take very seriously too.
We're seeing eating disorders in elementary age kids now, and I need you to expedite that process as much as possible because parents out there are worried, and I'm worried as a pediatrician. Parents can't take themselves off of these platforms. Kids, there's no way they're going to take themselves off, and we need you to do your part. It may affect your bottom line, but it could save this generation.
I share your concerns and I commit to
Yield
doing
back.
more.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Joyce.
Thank you, Chair Rogers and Ranking Member Pallone, for holding this hearing. According to an August 2022 article in the New York Times, TikTok's in-app web browser can track every individual keystroke made by a user. We have heard today about the various ways in which the app's code could be used to monitor or track users, and likewise, we've heard concerns that this data may not be fully isolated from access by the Chinese Communist Party. That said, I'd like to know more about the historical, non-public U.S. personal data that your company has already amassed. Mr. Chu, you have publicly stated that the non-public information of TikTok users in the United States is being transferred to an Oracle-based cloud infrastructure because of safety concerns. Will that be completed by the end of this week, by the end of this month? What's the outline for dealing with that data that you've already amassed?
All new data is already stored by default in this Oracle cloud infrastructure with the
No, I'm talking
safeguards.
about the data that you've already amassed.
We are in the process of deleting.
What timeline will that data be able to be stored?
I believe we will be able to get it done this year. I'm hiring.
This year, thank you. It's not going to occur anytime soon. To be clear, until that data transfer happens, user data remains accessible to the Chinese Communist Party. On March 1st of this year, the committee asked you when you plan to delete non-public historical U.S. user data. Are you aware of this?
Congressman, I disagree with this assessment that the Chinese government can get access to the data. It's really for, look, this is a private company. This is what Chinese employees.
You responded. You responded in writing to this committee. I have the response that we got back from you on March 7, just 6 days later. Your attorneys wrote, the company, I'm quoting, the company plans to begin the process of deleting non-public historic U.S. user data this month and anticipates that the process will be completed this year. You came up with a supposed plan in the summer of 2022, specifically based on our concerns that the Communist Chinese government was spying on U.S. users. But you only just came up with the idea to delete historic non-public U.S. data just 2 weeks ago? Let me read it again. On March 7th, your attorneys wrote, and I quote, the company plans to begin the process of deleting non-public historical U.S. data this month and anticipates that the process will be completed this year. Mr. Chu, did you just come up with this plan only because we asked about it on March 1st?
No, we started deleting this.
Well, because that's what it looks like to me.
We hired a third-party
Incredibly
auditor to help
disappointing.
us with this.
Wouldn't you agree that awaiting even minutes for this personal privacy protection is absolutely wrong and it is not in the best interest of your users?
Congressman, respectfully, there are many companies that use a global workforce. We are not the only one. We are just taking action after hearing
Given the
concerns.
delay in
Many other
deleting
companies
this
have
data
not.
and what we've already established about the ability of the Chinese Communist Party to access personal user data, would you agree that no U.S. government electronic devices should have access to TikTok platform as your lackluster security currently stands?
I disagree with that characterization. Like I
Do
said,
you think
the U.S.
that any individual should be utilizing that on any government platform?
I think the government devices shouldn't have no social media apps, to be honest. But
And
not
particularly
targeted
with
to us.
TikTok. Mr. Chu, during this hearing, you have mentioned several times that there is a, quote, different experience, your words, for children under the age of 13.
That is correct.
Different experience. Mr. Chu, do you allow your children under the age of 13 to participate in TikTok? Yes or no?
I did just explain this in detail. This experience doesn't exist in Singapore where my children live. If my children lived here, then yes.
Based on what we've heard today, it's clear to me that TikTok as a company cannot be trusted and that Americans remain significantly at risk because of the TikTok app. I still contend that TikTok is the spy in Americans' pockets. I want to acknowledge that TikTok does have the ability to make those changes, but unfortunately, we have not heard that from you today. We have not heard a commitment to be able to protect the personal privacy that Americans expect and that Americans deserve. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I yield the remainder of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Ms. Tran for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, many big tech CEOs have sat where you're seated today and tried to run out the clock during a hearing like this one. They were trained not to answer questions and just wait for the news cycle to pass so that they could get on with business as usual. Those same executives want this moment, TikTok's moment under the microscope, to distract Congress and the American people from the very real issues that exist on their platforms. You have an opportunity to turn the tables on them. While US-based social media giants have regressed on protections for children and teens, on protecting our data privacy, and on embracing transparency, you can lead, and you should lead. Last month, you announced that TikTok would expand access to its researcher API, but I'm concerned that your new policy could be more bark than bite, that it won't actually lead to the rigorous research that we as lawmakers and that parents and everyday TikTok users need. In fact, your terms of service demand that researchers delete their data at TikTok's unilateral direction. It puts onerous restrictions on how researchers' findings can be published, and it only allows access to public data, which researchers already have access to within the app. In order to actually address the content moderation and algorithmic amplification concerns that my colleagues have raised here today, and that I've heard about directly from parents in my home state of Massachusetts, independent researchers, not just other tech companies like Oracle, need to be able to evaluate how TikTok's algorithm is making decisions to promote content. Mr. Chu, will you commit to expanding your API to include data that would let researchers investigate how your algorithm is pushing content to users, whether it's showing up on your For You page, the hashtag page, or somewhere else?
We are, one of the commitments I gave in the opening statement is a commitment to transparency and third-party monitoring. So, Congresswoman, I will look into the details of that and get back to you.
And as well as the algorithm, including data on what types of users were targeted by the algorithm so that researchers can fully understand what content is being prioritized and who it's being pushed to.
Again, we have a commitment to transparency. These are very important questions, and I will get back to you on the specifics.
Under this same proposal, you require that researchers give TikTok, quote, worldwide, free, non-exclusive, and perpetual, end quote, rights to their papers. This threatens to clash directly with well-established practices of exclusive publication rights in research journals. Mr. Chu, why does TikTok need those rights?
I will need to get back to you on that specifics, if that's okay.
Yes, I don't see how we can expect researchers to do their work under these terms and then tout transparency. I'm going to shift gears with the time that I have remaining, Mr. Chu. I'd like to talk about TikTok's efforts to protect children and young users. In 2021, the UK's Age-Appropriate Design Code went into effect, mandating 15 standards that companies like you need to follow to protect children on your platform. You still operate in the United Kingdom, which means you should be in compliance with this code. So my question is simple. Will you commit to extending the protections currently afforded children in the UK to the millions of kids and teens who use your app here in the United States?
We take the safety of the younger users on our platform very seriously.
This is a good way to prove it.
Every country is a little bit different in context and in let me look at the specifics and bring some of the best practices across the world. But
well, those best practices are in they're being executed around the world. We just want the same for our kids here in the United States. I mean, Mr. Chu, when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, you indicated interest in taking steps to earn trust, our trust. And to me, it hasn't happened today so far. But rather you've ducked behind industry standards and comparables to your competitors, which we know are woefully insufficient. I strongly urge you to consider these terms, these commitments, make the case for why you're different from your American competitors and do better than them on transparency, which you've mentioned countless times today, but which we don't really have anything tangible to point to.
Yes, I don't want to make excuses for our industry or ourselves. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. We take this very seriously. Nothing is not perfect. We need to keep investing to stay ahead of our growth. So I agree that we need to prioritize safety and continue to do that as part of our company. And
Well, I look forward to getting back your comments and your commitments and those updated terms of service when you write back to the committee. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from North Dakota, Mr. Armstrong, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've heard a lot today about the procedural safeguards, independent code review, server locations, and the corporate independence between ByteDance and the CCP. But I think there's something else a little more telling. When you were asked about Chinese censorship, you pivoted immediately to drug use in Singapore. You have absolutely tied yourself in knots to avoid criticizing the CCP's treatment of the Uyghur population. And I think it begs the first question, before we ever get to Project Texas, which I'll get to in a section. If the CCP demanded that ByteDance hand over all of the data that they had on US users in their possession, and ByteDance refused, I wonder what would happen. I wonder if Jack Ma might have an opinion on that, and I wonder if he'd be allowed to give it. But let's talk about Project Texas for a second. Project Texas envisions a new US-based TikTok subsidiary. You have stated that this arrangement is unprecedented. I'd argue the reason it's unprecedented is because it requires continual oversight and monitoring by the US of a private business because it poses a national security threat. The new subsidiary's board would report to and be approved by CFIUS. CFIUS will also specify hiring requirements as well as interact with Oracle as it performs its data role. That is an extraordinary corporate governance structure. I have questions whether it complies with corporate law and fiduciary duty to shareholders. Yet the core concern is that the proposes unparalleled integration with the US government with a private company, which will require significant government resources. All of that to allow a continued operation of a social media platform that has serious national security implications. And CFIUS's workloads already dramatically increased in recent years, with a 30% increase in declarations and a 45% increase in joint voluntary notices. And there's bipartisan consensus that CFIUS needs to be expanded as we speak. Mr. Chu, can you identify a similar corporate arrangement that requires federal government to expand such resources to monitor an alleged data privacy and national security risk?
Congressman, I'm not an expert on this matter. I believe that there are certain similar arrangements, but I'm not the expert on this matter.
Well, the only one I could find was the UK created the Huawei Cybersecurity Evaluation Center in 2010 to assess Huawei's tech and to detect malicious activity and guard UK's networks. That's worked so well that the United Kingdom is now planning on kicking Huawei out of Great Britain. You stated that TikTok has invested $1.5 billion in Project Texas. Are you aware of any discussions or proposals that entail TikTok funding or offsetting the costs of CFIUS' role?
Those discussions are, I need to get back on the specifics, but I can tell you, yes, we did spend approximately $1.5 billion on our side.
You spent $1.5 billion on Project Texas. But do you have you agree that if CFIUS takes on this role, they're going to need a massive influx of dollars and human resources, right?
I cannot speak on behalf of CFIUS, Congressman.
Should the US government expend such resources to create this extraordinary arrangement for TikTok, especially considering alleged data privacy and national security risks?
Congressman, I cannot speak on behalf of the United
Well, but
States.
Project Texas doesn't work without CFIUS, right? Project Texas, as you guys have proposed it, does not work without CFIUS involvement.
The idea behind Project Texas is the firewall of US user data, make sure it's stored by an American company, overseen by American personnel, and we will invite third-party monitors to monitor this. So that, in essence, at least as far as I know, is the majority of the cost, because it will rely on not just us building the infrastructure, but us, finding and hiring these third-party monitors who are vetted to come in and monitor this structure.
You talked earlier about the shareholders' ownership of TikTok, and you said 60% is global investors, 20% is employees, and 20% is original founders. Are all those voting shares the same?
No, the founder has weighted voting rights, as is common in our industry.
So as far as a voting block of share of zoned in ByteDance, do you know if the Chinese Communist Party, not Chinese government Communist Party officials, the Chinese Communist Party, do you know what their percentage of the actual voting block share of ByteDance is?
The Chinese Communist Party doesn't have voting rights in ByteDance.
Chinese Communist Party members is a different question.
Do
the founders control the voting block of ByteDance's shares?
I do know that the founder himself is not a member of the Communist Party, but we don't know the political affiliation of our employees because that's not something we ask.
Does the Chinese government know the political affiliation of their Chinese citizens?
I cannot answer that question on their behalf.
I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Yield to the gentle lady from New Hampshire, Ms. Custer. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. True, I just want to say I agree with all of the comments of many of my colleagues today that we need to take a close look at whether TikTok poses a national security risk. For today, I'm going to focus my limited time on how TikTok can better protect its youngest users. And I think a number of us have identified as parents today and have serious concerns as we relayed to you. Just this week, I heard from a parent in my district in Nashua, New Hampshire, whose child was served harmful content on TikTok and has needed counseling as a result. This experience is not unique to this family, and it underscores the need for better child protections on your app. I'd like to dig further into TikTok's current safety and privacy controls for children. I understand that TikTok restricts certain app capabilities for users under age 18 and has additional restrictions for users under age 16 or 13, such as limiting who can interact with them on the platform. However, these protections are worthless if any savvy child can easily bypass these age restrictions by deleting their own account and creating a new one with a different age. And by easily, I mean you can literally go in and open another account using the same email address. So I've been made aware by child safety groups, including Fair Play for Kids and Common Sense, that it is that simple for young users to bypass the age restrictions on TikTok. Yes or no, are you aware of this issue?
I apologize. I think that's a great question that you raised. If a user inputs an age and is blocked, my understanding is that if the user tries to do it again within a short period of time, and I won't disclose
We
publicly.
did it in our office yesterday. You can go right back in, use the exact same email address, and open a new account. So can I get your commitment that you will at least fix that bug?
I will go and have a look at it. Yes.
Thank you. If we're here today to talk TikTok and not other platforms, but I'm happy to look at legislative solutions. In the interim, TikTok has a responsibility to do more to protect its young users, and I will accept your commitment to take a look at fixing that issue. Will you, let's see. Sorry, I recognize that TikTok has made efforts to provide parents and guardians increased options to monitor and limit their child's activity on the app, including family pairing and time limit features. But I still have concerns. In order to access family pairing, parents then must download the app onto their phone. And this sounds like a design to lure more users onto the app rather than a practical safety feature. Furthermore, downloading the app may not be a viable option for many parents. Mr. Chu, will TikTok commit to developing other methods for parents to monitor their child's use of the app without having to download the TikTok app on their phone?
I can look into that specifically and get back to you. But the
Okay.
family pairing that you mentioned is a very good tool that we develop. I encourage parents with teenagers
But it's not a
to use
perfect
it.
tool. And let me just say, one of my concerns is that the minimum time limit TikTok lets parents set for their children is 40 minutes, which for a young child is a very long period of time. Actually, giving parents control would mean providing them the freedom to set the screen time that makes sense for their family. Now, I've got a copy of the app page that shows just the 4 options. Would you commit to adding an other option so that the parent can easily set their own screen time limit?
I can take a look at that.
I think it's important. I think parents are looking for control. They're looking to allow their family to use these apps without TikTok taking over their child's media use. I've heard reports of users struggling to access the feature, and so I will look forward to hearing back from you on adding an other so that a parent can add a custom limit. So finally, I ask that you commit to report back to this committee and the American public on how TikTok addresses these safety issues and the steps that you are taking to default children's accounts to the most protective possible settings. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair yields to the gentleman from Ohio. 5 minutes, Mr. Balderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for being here today. I would like to start by inserting into the record a report entitled TikTok, ByteDance, and Their Ties to the Chinese Communist Party, which was published by the Australian Parliament just over a week ago. If I could add that to the record,
Without
please.
objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, we know that your company's algorithm has been exposed for delivering videos to China that encourages them to develop eating disorders, promotes challenges that have caused children to accidentally commit suicide, glorifies the use of drugs and pornography. Despite the constant media coverage of this issue, your company continues to feed our children this dangerous and harmful content. Can you explain to parents back in my congressional district why it should be their burden and not TikTok's to set up the guardian parental controls for their children so that they do not view content which encourages eating disorders or committing suicide?
Congressman, I take these issues very seriously. If the user is a teenage user on our platform, we actually have a differentiated experience, including certain models that we are building with experts to help identify certain content that's not inherently harmful, but could lead people to eating disorders. Anything that glorifies eating disorders is violative of our platform, and we remove that. And I want to assure you that I take this very, very seriously, this commitment.
Mr. Curtis, my colleague, mentioned the use of heating tool on your platform to make specific videos go viral or get more views. Does TikTok use a cooling tool where employees can manually limit the amplification of content that TikTok should hide, like content that promotes eating disorders, drug use, or suicide among children?
The only promotion tool that we have is approved by the local teams. So in the US, by the US team, and it's for commercial purposes like Taylor Swift. I think when she onboarded, we,
So
heated
that'd
a
be a
little.
yes or no?
I just want to make sure that I'm answering your question with specifics.
If this tool exists, why isn't it being used to cool then the spread of dangerous content? I mean, why is it still happening?
Dangerous content has that violates. We remove them when we see them. We actually remove them from the platform.
Okay. The fact of the matter here is that despite whatever action you take, that TikTok is taking to protect teens, your algorithm continues to promote harmful content. Wouldn't you agree that indicates there is something inherently wrong with the algorithm your platform employs?
I do respectfully disagree with that. The algorithm drives a great user experience for many, many users. Well, I talked about STEM content that has 116 billion views on our platform. One more example. Book Talk is a trend that happened on our platform. Is to encourage people to read. And globally, it has 115 billion views, and it's fantastic. I've heard people telling me that they are reading more because of Book Talk. So there is a lot of good and joy and positive that can be derived from the TikTok experience. Yes, there are some bad actors who come in and post violative content, and it's our job to remove them. But the overwhelming experience is a very positive one for our community.
But if it's your job to remove them, it's been said many times here today about the 41 days that that video stood up with addressing Mrs. the Chairwoman.
After this, I'm going to go and look into the specifics of that.
All right, thank you. Madam Chair, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the lady from Texas, Ms. Fletcher, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman McMorris Rogers, and thanks to Ranking Member Pallone for holding today's hearing, and thank you, Mr. Chu, for appearing today. It's been a long day, but we're here to learn about a complex set of issues that relate to TikTok and how to address them. And I think that's what we're hearing from colleagues on both sides of the aisle today, is a real effort to grapple with the challenges that we see for national security and for the safety and protection of American citizens, especially our children and young adults. And we've already covered today a lot of the information about the extensive use of the app, the number of users who are children and young adults. But I think it bears repeating, as Mr. VC mentioned, that TikTok is the preferred platform of young Americans. And they use it for all kinds of creative and important things. And we have seen that. But there are also some dangerous things that we know it has and continues to be used for. And that also, that the data that's collected is posing additional dangers. And that's what we're here for. Most people using TikTok do not realize that TikTok is collecting data about their keystrokes or about their browsing history on other sites and so much more. And I agree with my colleagues that we need a comprehensive set of data privacy laws here in the country, and we've heard some very good ideas today. Mr. Chu, you've mentioned several times today that these are industry-wide issues, and I agree with you that there are industry-wide challenges here. But there are also some specific things relating to TikTok that I want to focus my questions on and really want to understand where there's a difference and how we can craft legislation that addresses the very real challenges that we've been hearing about today. As you know, states across the country have joined an ongoing investigation into possible violations of consumer protection laws by TikTok as they pertain to TikTok's effect on the mental health of American children and teenagers. As part of this investigation, states have requested to review internal TikTok communications that takes place on Lark. That's TikTok's primary instant messaging system. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And does every TikTok employee have a Lark account?
It is very similar to companies that use Slack or any other instant messaging tool.
But Lark is a proprietary instant messaging tool. It's not Slack.
It is something that was developed, yes,
And
by ByteDance.
It was developed by TikTok?
No, it's developed by ByteDance.
It's developed by ByteDance. Okay. And so a couple of questions stemming from that. Is it true that Lark video conferencing has a translation feature in which Chinese is translated to English text and vice versa?
That is correct. It helps with global cooperation.
Okay. And those translated conversations are somehow saved into the Lark system?
I will need to get back to you on the specifics.
Okay.
There is, I'll get back to you on the specifics.
Okay. That would be great to know. And I neglected to ask, but does every TikTok employee have a Lark account?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Including you? Do you have one?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
And then do you have there's some kind of profile for your instant messaging system. So every employee identifies their manager and their department, who they work for, what they do. Is that all included in their Lark profile? Do you know?
It's very common for companies to have enterprise messaging tools that
Sure.
companies use.
It does. And I guess I'm asking specifically about Lark since it's specific to TikTok, whether it includes information like identifying who, for example, your manager is. Do you know whether that's something that's identified in Lark?
Yes, again, some of these HR features are built into a lot of enterprise tools that we use, and yeah.
So like for your own profile, does it identify who your manager is?
Yes, it does.
And who does it identify as your manager?
I report to the CEO of ByteDance.
Okay, and so that is Zhang Yiming, is that identified as your manager? That's the former CEO.
He has stepped down from the
Okay,
board and
so-
as the CEO, yes.
Okay, so Mr. Rubo is identified now as your manager on
Yes.
the system? Okay. And as you mentioned, it was developed by ByteDance, so it's not just used by TikTok employees, it's also used by ByteDance employees, is that right?
Also by other companies now. I think Lark is selling it, and it's a good tool for instant messaging.
So Lark is available to third parties outside of the ByteDance system as well, like
Yes.
Slack? And do you personally ever use Lark to communicate with ByteDance?
With employees at ByteDance? Yes, I do.
You do, okay. Well, I'm running out of time, and I'm sorry to say, because this is really interesting. I do think it underscores some of the concerns that have been raised in this hearing. So I think it's clear we have work we need to continue to do here in the Congress to address data protection and privacy. And with that, Madam Chairwoman, I thank you, and I will yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Committee stands in recess and will reconvene immediately following the third vote being called.
Bathroom.